Hey, did you know Athene's streaming?
Go tell him to call me, dude.
I'm not gonna go chat war in there, dude.
Oh, sounds to me like you're a little scaredy ass pussy bitch.
I mean, I'll go in there and be like, call of Destiny, but like...
Yeah, dude, there you go, man.
What are you gonna debate him over?
If I have an argument with him, I'm just gonna
religious and
yeah, I'll just post as a religious person.
Yeah.
Let's see if he can out debate me.
I don't understand. Like, I guess I just don't understand. What does he mean, like, by logic? Like, isn't some logic different to other people? Like, to some people.
No,
like,
he doesn't go
like,
into defining logic. That's the whole mean, dude. That's
like to my parents, like, if you said like, what is logic? They'd be like, well,
baby, don't hurt me.
believing it, like that's yeah.
Dude,
What?
I just did you get that meme?
No, I know what is love, baby, don't hurt me, but
Yeah.
that's like a 2 out of 10.
No, dude, but I did it so quick. No, dude, I did it so fast. People be like, they'll be like, you know, it's not the greatest meme like on paper, but the fact that it came out so quick and naturally, they'll be like, that's due to earn some respect right there. You know what I mean?
I don't think that earned. Yeah, look, Cyan Fox, shit meme.
Yeah, Cyan Fox is.
Dune
This guy
Bug-
is a literal
listen,
fucking
Dune
furry.
Bug just
You're gonna let
laughed
him
at
tell
your
you what a
fucking
good meme is?
Dunebug just laughed at your meme. That's how you know.
Dune.
Fucking dog shit.
Okay, shit, I can't defend
Dunebug
it there.
was on your
You're
side,
right.
dude.
My bad.
Yeah, I know.
Okay, all right. It might have been a shit meme. My bad. My bad.
They have a Discord? What the fuck, dude?
Yeah, dude, you just gotta click to get
Why
in.
don't you just here? This is the real plan. Why don't you just start a church, dude? Then
Honestly-
you don't have to pay any taxes. It's the dream.
Then what if Athene shows up and then out debates me on my church? I'd have to kill
Oh,
myself.
man, dude.
The last time we had an argument, he like weaseled his way to fucking everything, dude. Now I feel like, what if I go back and I get stomped? And then I have to convert to the...
What if you get logic, dude?
Yeah, I have to convert to the cult of logic, man.
Loser
How many
joins
hugs a
others'
day?
cult.
How many hugs a day do you get when
Did
you're
you
on
watch that
PMS?
fucking video?
I watched every video,
When
dude.
girls are PMSing, they just need hugs. She only gets 2 hugs a day.
No, 3 a day, you fucking
Oh, it's
idiot.
3 a day,
Oh my
bad,
god. What kind of logic
My
person would think
logic
you
told
get
me,
2
my
hugs a
logic told
day?
me 2 a day, dude.
It doesn't even make
Logic
sense.
said. Are you saying that your logic is more logical than mine?
I mean, my logic allows for 3 hugs a day, not 2, so...
Alright, I'm gonna go start spamming. See if Athene,
Yeah, let me know how that goes.
Logic the shit out of you, dude.
Oh shit, dude. This channel is only for clicking / questions about it. If you don't want to click or if you want to argue against logic, this is not the right place for you. Intellectual masturbation equals ban. Athene said he doesn't mind oh no, dude, I can't.
He said I'll call you on Skype.
Oh,
He said
no.
he has you on Skype and I'll call you.
I can't do it. No,
How are
dude.
you gonna pussy out now?
Because
dude?
he's
You're right
legit like
there.
crazy. This guy could fucking find me and kill me. I have a child to think about now, dude.
He's in fucking Belgium.
Yeah,
with
in like
like
some fucking ex-Nazi Auschwitz hospital, dude. Fuck. Athena's saying I'm scared. Oh no, dude. The call-outs.
What do you say?
Apparently
You're scared?
Athena's saying that I'm scared. Oh shit, dude. I'm not gonna lie, I'm pretty frightened, dude. Mr. Moon, I'm getting pretty nervous, dude. I think I'm gonna get fucking logicked.
You should make him take the autism test like Shirley made you take.
I think he would fail, dude. I'm not gonna lie. Nah, I don't think he would.
Yeah,
You think he would?
fail.
You can't be a cult
I don't
leader
think he would.
and
You
be
can't
like
a cult leader
antisocial.
and- Yeah. He went to go to the bathroom real quick.
Yeah, one sec. I'm trying to see here how to disable all these sounds because every time it says user joined and stuff. Where can I see that?
Oh yeah, it won't say that anymore. But
I won't say that anymore? Okay.
No,
that's
because
great.
nobody's gonna join this channel. I locked it.
Okay, that's cool. Okay, nice. So this is working nice, like the sound of this mice. Yeah, it works nice. Let me.
Yeah, your mic works.
Okay,
Yeah,
okay,
I
that's
think it's
good.
all good.
Okay.
I don't think I can hear myself in the background or anything, so yeah, you should be fine.
All right, hello.
Hi there.
Hey, what's up, buddy?
Everything fine? How are you doing?
I'm doing great. Not as good as I think you think you're doing, but I'm doing pretty good.
That's great, man. Yeah, like I know there's some like a lot of stuff going on our end, and it sounds really crazy, and a lot of people talking about it. And yeah, like I heard that you also had ideas and thoughts, and I don't mind just answering questions you have about all this click logic stuff. So yeah.
So I guess, I mean, I guess I'll just start off with like the most blunt stuff. Do you really think you're the smartest guy in the world right now?
Not the smartest guy. I would say
you think you're like top 10 or top 100?
When the way I define intelligence, I would say I'm the most intelligent person by far.
How?
Because the way I define intelligence is the extent to which you are actually emotionally calibrated with reason, and in order to do so, you need on a fundamental level to value logic, and that is something that was not really possible before, because we didn't understand the mechanics, and we didn't have the insight in neuroscience or evolutionary biology for logic to provide a moral and ethical compass. So it's only very recently that we managed to get these answers and have the ability for logic to provide really concrete action throughout your life, which helps you, move humanity forward, basically. So that's why I would consider myself as the most intelligent, because that's how I define it, because it helps me communicate the message. The reason why I make these kind of crazy claims is because it helps people talk about it. It helps spread the word. I don't really have so much ego or identity about it. For me, it's more just like with best paladin in the world. It gives me the ability for making these claims and then immediately connect it to the essence of the message I'm trying to spread. So I define intelligence as making your core value logic, and suddenly people start talking about it. So it's just a way of spreading the word. And I define intelligence.
If you identify yourself as being the most intelligent person in the world, and then people look to your credibilities and then they start to doubt that claim, don't you think that kind of tarnishes the entire movement that you're trying to launch?
Well, I still think it's better than nobody talking about it at all. If it wasn't for that, we'd probably not have this conversation right now.
Well, so but if your idea was so good and so strong that as soon as somebody was introduced to it, it would cause this rapid shift in mentality, and they would become a completely logical, rationally based creature, or whatever. Wouldn't you want the idea to move on its own two legs rather than to try to artificially propel it with a bogus claim that casts, doubt on the entire movement? Like it seems like you're shooting yourself in the foot before you even get off the starting line.
Well, the thing is, like, we live more and more in a post-fact world. It's even almost trending. And it's not so much about facts, it's more about intersubjective reality. And let me define what I mean with that is what people value is much defined by what other people value, even if it's bogus. And with the same, ID, you could almost question the entire presidential elections, what is actually going on there. At the end of the day, it's not so much the facts or the reality that makes people decide a certain way or think a certain way. It's more the extent to which you can speak to their emotional part of the brain. And in that regards, like being very strategic about it allows you to just reach a bigger audience rather than just, going the pure scientific way. And that is something that, even politicians and not just politicians, but even scientists themselves, it's a hard reality they have to face. And that's why, when it comes down to even people that are famous, is a lot defined by the extent to which they can actually speak to what people like to hear, what is sensational, what makes them, what speaks to their emotions. And it's just something I understand, and I take advantage of it, and it works. That's basically how my entire my entire approach and track record has been built upon. Is really always breaking records or saying crazy things that spreads, and that's literally also not wanting to say it's the same thing, but it's the same way how Trump got elected. So yeah.
Does it make you feel kind of like strange that you claim that you live in an intersubjective, post-fact world, but you're trying to push a platform of pure logic and reason? Do you see a contradiction there?
It's not really contradictory because I'm trying to use what is currently omnipresent to actually bring reason, and one of the better ways in achieving that is using what works. And if the intersubjective reality is what works for people, then I just see how I can make use of that, and that's how it's been working. And that was always my plan, even before I started playing WoW and became the best paladin in the world. My goal was always to, have a big impact and move humanity forward, and that is why I have why it has allowed me to raise so much money for charity and have such a big impact. And right now, with this entire logic clicking stuff, it has actually also allowed me to help people really go through transformations from one moment to another. Of course, I do think independent peer review is needed, and I do think that with the documentary coming out, I think tomorrow, we will definitely reach out to scientists, and if it makes enough noise, I'm sure they will also take notice and look into it. And I will be in a much stronger or a weaker position depending on the results of these scientific studies, because of course I can claim whatever. That's why I'd like to have some independent peer review, because it's really a discovery about how the human brain can connect an imaginary concept to the reward system. And this is actually what religion was. And that's something, even though there is a branch like neurotheology, there's actually very little research in it, even if 6.4 billion people are religious. And it actually explains the dynamic on a neurological level, which is why it's falsifiable and can be tested. And I do believe, based on all the testimonies, that it's legit.
Okay, so just so that we're on the same page, I want to kind of go back here and analyze some of these claims. Okay, we're going to go like very small piece by piece. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. When in the beginning you said that you have seen connections from or evidence from neuroscience and evolutionary biology that substantiate your claims. Can you talk specifically what did neuroscience has to do with this particular brand of philosophy that you're, I guess.
The thing is, the thing is that when you look at neuroscience, you can, when you do some research, for example, about low self-esteem, why do you have low self-esteem? There's actually been studies where there's MRI scans where they see that people that have really low self-esteem, or people that need a lot of validation, is the extent to which the idea of themselves is connected to their reward center, to which extent you have a reward pathway that connects both. So basically, there is already quite some information about how you can have a certain ID, and when you follow up on that ID, you can feel rewarded. Same with for example, what happens with God. But the thing is, with God, it's much more powerful because it goes much more deeper, and that's the discovery. Because there is already quite some research around paradigm shifts, identity crises, and stuff. And basically, this insight is much more an extension of that really goes to the core of what drives us. So
looking at just the beginning thing. So the claim is that we have MRI scans that say that if people are feeling, if somebody has high self-esteem, that you can correlate that with certain areas of the brain, certain.
So basically, when people have high self-esteem, the part that activates when that is connected to their idea of the self-image, right?
Okay.
Also has a stronger connection to the reward center, which is the part in the brain that releases dopamine and makes you feel great. So when you think about yourself and you have high self-esteem, you see a reward pathway that connects it with the reward center and makes you feel good. People that have low self-esteem, that pathway is a lot less present. And these are studies you can just literally just look it up and Google it.
How does this But how does this connect with your base of logic? What if you've got a very great view of yourself because you are a religious person and you view yourself as being holy,
Yeah.
or if you subscribe to some other ideology that doesn't, value logic?
So yeah,
and-
basically the difference is because it's in a sense very similar. If you
What's very similar?
like if you submit to God and you go through a paradigm shift,
Okay.
right? And then suddenly you feel great going to church and such. Like the reason why that is because on a fundamental level, you feel like God will provide for your safety, God will provide for everything, He loves you and everything. So basically, what you experience is just this concept of God and everything, every action, which is following the words of the Bible, for example, that rewards you, is just because you make that connection with that reward center. The problem with that is that believing in God and following the Bible by the letter is not really fully in line with the objective reality.
Wait, why not?
And because there is things in the Bible that go against what the objective reality tells us. For example, if you read that the world was created 6,000 years ago, for example, and there is evidence that shows that that is not the case, it causes a lot of duality. It causes basically duality between what you on an emotional level experience and what your reason tells you. And most of the duality that people experience is the discrepancy between that emotional part and that rational part. And the beauty of, like, if you think that, logic is in a sense that God, is that you align that emotional drive and desire to fulfill what provides you safety. So for someone that believes in God, it's God. It becomes logic. Then it translates itself in understanding logic, understanding the objective reality. And as a result, what actually happens is your reason and your emotions align and your duality vanishes.
Okay, but what's to keep somebody who's not a fundamentalist, somebody that has an understanding of religious text but gets an interpretation from a priest or a pastor or whatever, that doesn't believe in the fundamental teachings of the Holy Bible, but in the moral or ethical teachings and of the teachings of a deity, what's to teach them from embracing that deity, having a positive self-image that relates to this neuroscience that you're talking about, and then carrying on with their life with that kind of a belief system? What makes your system superior to their system?
Well, the thing is, I'm not saying that my belief system is superior.
You did though. Wait, the central claim in your video was that there would be a giant shift in the world because your system is superior to every other system, and you consider yourself the most intelligent person in the world for discovering the system.
The thing is, what is very important to understand is that the objective reality just is. And there is not so much things like
but what I'm asking is, why do you have access to this objective reality that a religious person doesn't? What separates the two of you?
Well, what I'm just trying to say is that when it comes down to the reality, things just are. So, for example, if we have an entire argument or we philosophize or whatever, at the end of the day, we'll just have to still eat to survive and sleep or whatever. Basically, the objective reality is always the one that overrides everything. So now, to answer your question about God, and someone religious, the thing is that when you look at evolutionary biology, because that answers your question, around 70,000 years ago, you had the cognitive revolution, and religion allowed us, for a big part, to start living more from groups from 100 to 150 people to larger groups, because you needed to be able to trust each other, even though you didn't know each other personally. So religion had a very big use from a evolutionary perspective. But since religion gave answers to questions we couldn't answer, like when there was death or when there was famine or whatever, we just said, it is because we, angry to the gods or whatever. But it is because people thought that the Bible or the Quran or whatever book was giving all answers, that it actually slowed down our ability to start questioning the objective reality. And it's only in the 1500s, with the scientific revolution, that we started realizing that we could explain the objective world and accepted our ignorance, that we went to this technologically booming and shift that brought about all the safety and all the luxuries you experience nowadays. So when you say to me like, oh yeah, like what about God and religion? The thing is, God and religion has been what's required for us to live together as a society, but it is our acceptance of ignorance and our acceptance to try and understand the objective reality that has brought about all this progress. And when you say, like, what is the difference between this paradigm of logic or believing in God, is this will have a similar and an even bigger impact, because it's going to basically what scientific revolution has done for society, this will do on a psychological level for humans. So it will make people a lot more in line with reality, will make them a lot more driven to contribute to the superorganism to evolve. Because like that's what we see when we just look at evolutionary biology and neuroscience, what we actually are. And as a result, our ability to thrive as a species and as a world community will just escalate exponentially. And that is also what I see with people that do click. People that do click suddenly stop their bad habits instantaneously. They stop smoking. Even when it comes down to procrastination and stuff, they just stop it immediately. They become much more active beings of society and contribute. And their own sense of identity, their story just vanishes. It's just something that is also described in a lot of spiritual transformations. The difference, though, is that this belief system is in line with the objective reality. You can go also through this kind of transformation and then start following the word of the Bible. But the problem is that the word of the Bible is a lot less in line with the objective reality than science. And that is why this paradigm is going to change the world, because it's in line with the objective reality.
Okay, so going back really far, the first whole part of that explanation was just explaining the rise of science. Okay, are you familiar with the term "God of the gaps"? I'm sure you are, right?
I don't know God and...
okay, so
maybe I know
God of the gaps is, in the very early days, we had religion because religion gave us answers to questions that we didn't have the, tools to test, right? So God of the gaps is an idea that as we progress as a society, we as a society gain more information about things, and then the phenomenon that are covered by an explanation, derived from God is decreasing and decreasing and decreasing. So, for instance, the planet Earth is held in the air by a magical God because he loves us. Well, we find out actually the planet Earth, revolves around the sun. Okay, so God doesn't cover that anymore. Well, people get sick because of evil spirits. Well, no, actually it's because of bacteria and viruses. Okay, so God doesn't cover that anymore, right? So it's an idea known as God of the gaps, right? That God covers less and less, right? Which is kind of what you're talking about. But nothing that you have described has set apart your ideology any more than just being agnostic or being non-religious. Like everything that you've described has been pretty mainstream thought for a lot of people that aren't religious.
I do agree with that, and that is exactly why this will spread quite quickly.
Well, what spread to who, though? How do you convince a religious person? Like, if I'm religious and I believe in a holy text, maybe not fundamentally, but I believe that there is a God and there is an afterlife, and I'm going to model my life around a certain religion, we'll say Christianity or Catholicism, I guess, to be exact. How do you convince that person otherwise by just saying logic? You've talked about an objective reality, but you're not giving me any way that you can key into that objective reality any better than a religious person was. And we're not even talking about whether or not an objective reality even exists, which some people argue, against, depending on what flavor of philosophy you deal in.
Well, it depends how you define objective reality, but I'm just saying what I was saying, that's why it's going to spread in the academic world more easily.
Well, but what academic idea are you putting forth that's unique? Again, all I've heard is a description of moving away from being very religious to not so much religious.
Basically, when it's about understanding how emotions drive everything you do, and how on a fundamental level your inner child channels its need to what provides its safety through a certain concept.
Yeah, but I mean, even Freud with the id, the ego, and the superego postulated about different kinds of stuff. I mean, these are well understood concepts that you've got driving factors, that your emotions back in your brain stem or whatever from different parts of your brains are going to instinctually, dictate your behavior before your frontal lobes have an idea or the ability to process everything and give you, more constructive thought. This is why we operate on different levels of, cognitive thought versus instinctual behavior. Why do you pull your hand back reflexively from a stove without even thinking about it? Like, I think that these are all pretty well understood thoughts. I'm trying to get to what is unique.
This is very different because
what's different?
This explains what the process of what religious people go through when they submit to God, and the ability to use the same similar mechanisms to submit to what actually created us, which is.
But the mechanism you're describing is just you have high self-esteem when you have something good that you believe in, whether that is logic or God. I don't think that there's anything new or radical there. Everybody has high self-esteem when they feel like their thought process aligns and they don't experience a lot of, cognitive dissonance or duality, as you call it.
Well, high self-esteem is just an example that I gave to show how you can connect a concept with your reward center and see it in MRI scans. But what it is about is how, on a fundamental level, whatever you do, like let's say, and this is a very important thing to reflect on, and all the viewers as well, when you go through life and you do something, there is an emotional reason why you do it. And the best way of figuring it out is really asking very honestly, why am I doing this? So like, let's say you want to have a call, or let's say you are going through life tomorrow and you want to start a new website or something, really going to the core of what actually drives you emotionally allows you to understand what is it that is, basically driving all your actions. And the way things work is based on, and that is something that I will also allow, the scientific world to challenge, because this is a theory, is that core drive is basically what drives all your actions, and you can always bring it back to that. And it's basically, what is it that gives you safety on a very primitive level? And when you grow up as a child, you basically, through approval system mechanics, you learn, you get conditioned to learn what provides you safety. And your brain, what it does is it actually connects that to your reward center. So whenever you do it, you feel rewarded. And the beauty is that you can actually go to that core emotion that drives you, and realize that if it is, for example, comfort, or if it is validation or fitting in, that it's not providing as well for your safety than logic would do. And the only thing you got to do is to be able to love logic on an emotional level. So this entire process that I'm talking about is not so much a rational thing, it's an emotional thing. And the moment you go through that process, you actually align your experience, your emotional self, with your rational self. And that is where duality just vanishes. And it has tremendous implications even for intelligence. We've been doing tests here with people that didn't click, that were daily doing like calculations, and there's even graphs. We will show them in the documentary very spontaneously. But basically there is a spike the moment they click. And the reason why that is because,
spike?
Like, so basically, let's say they, because it's like certain exercises they have to do, and they have a certain amount of time, and it goes slightly up. So like it's first, they take 60 seconds, like they can do it for 60 seconds and 70 seconds, and it goes up like linearly. And the moment they click, there's literally a big spike in their performance, and that is something that can be measured.
Well, I mean, I'm sure it could, but in terms of making this like a valid psych experiment, I mean, if you've got somebody that's wrestling with a concept and then they finally understand the concept, sure, any test you give afterwards is probably going to be more favorable than the one prior where they were dwelling on it.
Though, like, that is why I'm not claiming this to be absolute. I would love to see more criticism.
Well, this is the community. This is the thing I'm having a problem with. Nothing that you said, I don't think, is anything that I haven't heard before. Like from people that are like far older than any living person today. Like I think most, like when you talk about retreating to some core belief, I mean, people talk about like battered housewives or whatever that always go back to a husband because they feel like that person is their core, whatever. Like these are all things that have been stated and are well understood.
It's the ability to change it to logic, replace it with logic with 4 steps. That is what's revolutionary about it.
What is that? What do you mean by that, though?
So if you follow these 4 steps, you can literally change your current core value, which is comfort or validation seeking or whatever. You have the capacity to replace it with logic.
Yeah, but the 4 steps are literally just like whatever you think right now is stupid, and then come believe in logic because I tell you to. Like, what's the drive to move?
That's not true.
Well, what's the drive? Okay, how would you? I'm curious. How would you convince a person that's religious to switch to your fundamental belief system? Well, how would you tell them to abandon
My goal is not to convince people to switch to logic. My goal is to spread this awareness and have people come to this conclusion themselves, because I cannot make people switch. They have to want it themselves. Why
But
is
if somebody works, why? Because they like being religious, because it makes them feel good, because they got a lot of
It's
satisfaction.
because they grew up like that. It's because of conditioning. It's because they grew up like that. If they grew up in a world where religion didn't exist, they wouldn't be religious. It's called social conditioning.
Yeah, but social conditioning affects your ability to embrace logic just as much. If you grew up in the wild wilderness or in the plains of Africa hunting for food with a spear, I don't think you would be, trying to logic or rationalize your way through.
That is exactly why I also stated earlier that going through this paradigm shift is only capable now because we have enough understanding in neuroscience and evolutionary biology for logic to provide this ethical and moral compass, while before it was not possible.
Well, yeah, but you just discredited the idea of a person being religious because you said that the only reason they're religious is because of social conditioning. And
no, I don't discredit it. I think religion was actually an important aspect in the evolutionary of mankind, but that we've come to a time where we start understanding ourselves so well that we don't need the idea of like this kind of God, concept of this kind of God.
Well, how do you explain the concept of like right and wrong, or what happens after you die, or why are we all here?
Right and wrong doesn't exist. It's just defined by the extent to which the reference frame of the subject. So for one person, something can be wrong, while for another, it can be right. There is no such a thing as absolutes.
How do you enforce things like thievery or murder or rape with that kind of a belief system?
Because logic shows us that if you just understand yourself, this ethical compass flows out of it automatically. And let me be more accurate. When you look at evolutionary biology and you look how we start thriving as a species, our ability to take care of each other is because it has allowed us to thrive as a human species. The reason why we have an empathic part of the brain where we care for one another, because it allowed us to survive and thrive. The extent to which we take care of the weaker and the extent to which we take care of, just like living animals or just life in general, literally translates the extent to which you are advanced as a species, and the extent to which you can, move forward and evolve. And the moment you go actually against that, the moment you start going into war or conflict, you literally make yourself fall back. Of course, you can argue and say that, war has shaped our history and everything, but when you look at statistics and information and data, there has been a very big decline. Actually, only 120,000 people out of, 100 million deaths? I think 100 million deaths in, 2012 was because of war. So we have a really big trend of caring more about each other and taking care of each other.
Okay, so then is the base argument that because we have some things and some behaviors that we exhibit naturally, that we should embrace every natural behavior that we exhibit?
No, not at all.
So then how do you pick? So the way that you pick which behaviors are beneficial to society versus which ones are not beneficial seems to fall on your belief system, which brings us back to square one. How do you tell the religious person?
Yes and no, because you can actually use the scientific method to see which kind of behavioral systems do bring about better working.
But when you say better, that word is subjective. Like, what if I'm opposed to all forms of
brings about stronger evolution in the superorganism, and that is not so much subjective. That is objective. Of course, you can still.
What do you mean by evolution of the superorganism?
So basically, when you look at what you are right now, we are the result of billions of years of evolution. And if it wasn't for this, we would just still be just stardust. So when you look at how we have come to love, for example, why do we love? Why do we have these emotions? It's because it allows us to reproduce. Why do we have reason? Why do we have consciousness? It's because it allowed us to make better decisions. At the end of the day, when you look at nature and you look at how things have evolved, it's basically nature adapting itself on the objective reality, and the more it does so, the more it thrives, because the ones that aren't very in line with the objective reality, they die out. So basically, if you start adopting a belief system that is in line with the objective reality, you literally align yourself with what you are.
Yeah, but you keep tying everything to like nature, and this, I don't think that this argument is good. If you're talking about, especially when you talk about concepts like evolution would have people with Parkinson's or schizophrenia dying out at early ages, but we as a society have decided to dedicate, a decent portion of the medical community towards keeping people alive with these unfavorable genetic traits, and we do it long enough even for them to reproduce. So it seems like these kinds of decisions are playing against this evolutionary concept that you're talking about, and they also play against like the whole, like you keep bringing up like by nature we do these things. There's a lot of things that the humans can do by nature that we don't do anymore in a society. So again, back to my original question: how do you decide which traits are favorable and which traits are unfavorable, and why is your belief system any better than anybody else's, or even unique?
So like basically, if you make the argument, like let's say you take someone that believes in God, right? Mm-hmm. And you take a society that believes in God, then what you have is like you have a middle-aged society or an even more primitive one. A society that accepts more science and a scientific method, and our understanding of the objective reality brings about the entire exponential growth of technology. So there is a very clear differentiation between a belief system that just, ignores facts.
But that's
and
not true.
Reality.
You're presenting a very, very, very disingenuous dichotomy there that doesn't exist, because today in the United States of America, I believe 70 to 80% of people still identify as Christian. So it's very possible to still be religious and forward scientific thought at the same time. Religious people just augment the way that they view their religion.
Yes, indeed. And that is why it's because the scientific revolution has brought about a scientific paradigm that has not been fully adopted on a psychological level. Well, and that is what this revolution will do.
Well, but that's the only difference is you're viewing scientific thought as being incompatible with religious thought. But religious people would say...
No, I'm not saying that.
Well, but you just said, you just made the implication that you just said in your own words that scientific thought should replace religious thought, that it hasn't done it yet psychologically, but that it's on its way to doing it.
What I'm just saying is the latter is a lot more efficient.
Why? How?
Growing
Why?
and evolving. Because you adopt a belief system that is completely aligned with the objective reality.
But what is the objective reality?
The objective reality is whatever we are subject to, independent of our feelings, thoughts, or beliefs.
But does that reality even...
example.
Okay, but we're not talking about things like gravity. We're talking about things like, should gay people be allowed to marry each other? Or should it be okay to murder or kill your neighbor if they have a possession that you covet? Right?
Well, actually, you can logically deduce these decisions. You can logically find an answer to these questions without the need for a moral or ethical paradigm given by religion.
But
and
you could also find the answers in religion as well. Why is your system superior to a religious one?
Because it allows you to align your beliefs with the objective reality, which is exactly what has brought about the scientific revolution.
But this is the problem.
Place.
First of all, the objective reality isn't what brought about the scientific revolution. The objective reality is always going to be colored by your own personal perceptions. I believe that earlier you mentioned the concept of inner subjectivity, I think was the term you used. The idea that every single objective thing that you experience is already colored by your perceptions as a human. And you still haven't told me how can your belief system tap in to this objective reality in a superior way to any other belief system. I still don't understand how you get into this objective reality.
The reason why it's going to spread is, first of all, because of the intersubjective reality, because people will be talking about it, and
can you tell
they
me
will see.
How do you get into the objective reality? How does your belief system tap into it?
The way it will work with the objective reality is people that click will be a lot more successful and achieve a lot more, and other people will want that. They will suffer less. Like there is one guy.
I want to know. Can you tell me how your belief system connects you closer to an objective reality? Can you answer that question? Are you able to?
Yes, I'm able to answer that question because it makes you more compatible with that objective reality because your actions are in line with it. If you think that there is a door where there is a wall and you try to walk through that door, you will smack your head against the wall.
But religious people don't try to walk through walls with doors in them. I'm talking about...
Actually, people do in the figure of speech. They can go through life really literally damaging themselves, eating themselves to death. and smoking themselves to death. People are walking to these walls all the time, but it's not a real wall. It's maybe not as real as a wall, but it has, similar consequences, sometimes even bigger ones. So like, it's just people's belief system is not in line with the objective reality. And the moment logic is what drives your actions, you just immediately stop your bad habits. I'm going to give you an example. There was a guy that had a borderline syndrome.
What is borderline syndrome?
I don't like it's severe anxiety talking to other people and such.
Okay.
And basically, he went to a psychologist, a psychiatrist. For years, he was also shut down in his room, and he clicked, I think, 2 weeks ago. His borderline syndrome completely vanished. I didn't believe the story. He sent me proof. And basically, what I'm just wanting to give here as an example is that is what's going to convince people. People are going to see these kind of cases where people with depression or serious anxiety suddenly don't have it anymore and go like, I also want that.
Okay, but people have religious epiphanies all the time where they're Islam. Have you ever heard of is it the 10-step program when you're an alcoholic that makes you see Jesus and you have a big come to God and you ask everybody for forgiveness and all that? Like people have these same religious epiphanies as well. So again, I'm asking, like you said that your belief, you are being very, very big on claiming that your belief is unique from every other system, which makes you the most intelligent person on the planet. So I'm asking, how is it unique? Everything that you're describing has been experienced by other belief systems, and I haven't heard any unique offerings from your system yet, other than logic and reason.
I keep repeating it over and over again. If you submit yourself to your will to logic, then basically your emotional desire.
Okay, but fundamentally,
to do anything.
Fundamentally, what is logic? Like, what if my logic is a religious text, or what if my logic is I believe that I should be able to kill or murder or rape anybody that I want?
It depends how you define logic, but the way I define logic is the consistent patterns that bring about our objective reality.
Okay, so if the definition of logic is subjective, then your entire belief system is built upon accepting a subjective premise, which could lead you down a million different roads, which kind of nullifies the entire thing, don't you think?
Well, the thing is, though, like you could make the same argument for math or for science. At the end of the day,
the philosophy of math, I don't believe you could make a similar.
If you want to redefine the word one and you say one from now on is an apple, then
we're not talking about semantics, though. We're talking about abstract thoughts. We're talking about society and culture. For instance, if you look at the theories of the philosophy of math, there are testable math theorems, and there are pages and pages of proof that supply math proofs. These are very different things that can be tested over and over again. Like this isn't the same as having like
Your argument against what I was saying is everybody can define logic the way they want, and I can use that argument the same with numbers. Everybody can redefine one the way they want.
But if they redefine one to something else, they're still going to get the same answer in a different language. If you try to do computations in base 8, just because you get a different number doesn't mean you have a different abstract answer. That's just a semantics game.
That's not true, because if you redefine one to an apple, then you can't use this one in a program coding language because it's an apple. And
you could, because if we had base apple, then the code's languages would be written. Language code doesn't even work a lot of the times in base 10. Some of it is hexadecimal, a lot of it is binary.
What I'm just trying to explain is that, like, when it comes down to how people understand concepts, right, and define concepts, that is something that is subject to change. And if you say that is on itself an argument to debunk the definition of that I give to logic, it can be applied to any concept and any word you use.
Yeah, but the onus is on you. The onus is on you to give me your definition of logic and convince me that it's correct, because you're the one that's selling now this ideology of clicking. If you're selling the ideology, you need to have an argument that is irrefutable to back up that platform. You can't tell me that your entire premise that everything is founded upon is subjective. That destroys your reality.
That's not true, because if you use the argument that if something is subjective to refute it, you can refute everything, because everything is inherently subjective. You need a subjective reference frame even to experience. If I wouldn't exist, we wouldn't have this conversation. For all I know, this is all a bad dream. So everything is inherently subjective. So that's not a premise to just debunk everything. The other way around. Understanding that everything is inherently subjective allows you to understand that you have to take that as a premise in order to even be able to make an argument. You
But
can't
then
make
if
an
everything
argument
is inherently
without the
subjective, how does your ideology tap into an objective reality?
That's the thing. I redefine objective reality as that it's semantics, like I said.
Well, no, it's not. If you redefine objective reality, that makes it not objective reality by definition, right?
The thing is, I don't redefine objective reality. I'm literally quoting what I read. The objective reality is what applies to people independently to their beliefs, thoughts, or emotions. When you just Google what objective reality is, that's the definition. So what I redefine, though, is logic. And the reason why I redefine logic to the consistent patterns that bring about reality is because it's something very easy for people to relate to. And logic also includes things such as critical thinking. So,
but the consistent patterns that define reality, there are so many
that bring about reality.
I mean, like when you're talking about the problem is that you're trying to use this. And this is kind of the problem I got with the whole video. You're trying to bring about these very basic concepts of physics and math, things that are quantifiable and testable, and then you're trying to apply them to things like society or culture, which are dozens of abstractions removed from these fundamental concepts. Like when you talk about something like the reward center in the brain lighting up, these correlations, like these things are so far removed from how do these actually manifest in society that I'm having a lot of trouble following you from point A, which is like talking about these very base claims, whether you're talking about math, philosophy, or physics, getting all the way to my objective reality can give you a paradigm to view culture and society through. Like, I'm not making that connection. And every time I try to make that connection, you give me this garbled, everything is subjective in the middle, which I thought the entire point of your system was everything is logic and submit yourself to logic and reason. But now you're telling me all of it is subjective. So I feel I can't reconcile those two things.
The problem is that, like, we're just having an argument, and I'm just giving counter arguments to the ones you're giving to try and debunk what I'm saying, because I'm fully aware that everything is inherently subjective. So if you start using the argument of, oh, this is subjective, I just say like, yeah, but everything is subjective, so you have to take subjectivity in the premise. The reason why I use objective reality to make these claims is because it's very easy for people to relate with it. They can understand that gravity is objective, but money, on the other hand, is something that we give value to it. So it's about defining these concepts and be able to communicate it towards people so they understand it. And logic is a concept that is much more easily to identify with and to submit yourself to than something like making sense. Because initially I was talking all the time about making sense, but making sense is too vague. People think they already make sense. With logic, it's much more structured. It's much more connected to critical thinking. So for me, it's for a big part finding out the language, the correct language, so I can more easily spread this awareness. It's like, I didn't want to reinvent a word, calling it God or whatever. I wanted to find a word like God, for example. Like, let's say, like, oh, let's call it pikunkel or whatever. I didn't want to redefine a word that people weren't very familiar with, and that's why I took logic, gave it some extra, definition for people to understand how it connects to the objective reality, and how it also gives a paradigm for critical thinking and looking at evolutionary biology and neuroscience to understand the moral paradigm. But what is even more important, I think, and that is, I think maybe if you understand this, you would get a more appreciation for everything I say, is that this is more emotional than anything else. When you go through life, it's about understanding why you do what you do. It's about understanding why you act the way you act. And most people, their entire life is completely defined by this core concept that drives them, that their inner child has put their faith in. And for most people, that is comfort. And the thing is, when you do stuff, it's to fulfill comfort. It's to feel comfortable. But if you realize that actually submitting to comfort is bringing about less safety than submitting to logic, the way from the core, the essence in your behavior starts changing, and you start feeling rewarded for doing logical stuff.
But what if you're submitting to comfort? What if when you submit to comfort, that comforting thing that you submit to is logical to you?
But the thing is, though, like the way you go about it is you use all your reason, right, to justify your current core value. Yeah, that's what people do.
Sure. So then, why would they ever switch? If their comforting thing is logical to them, why would they switch?
Because it's even more logical to have logic as a core value.
But if their core value is something that they see as being logical, I'm trying to get you to sell. I want you to sell your logic to me.
It's because it will bring them more safety.
How?
Because you will be rewarded doing logical stuff, and as a result, you will live longer, you will eat more healthy, and you will all want to do it. You won't even need any discipline to do it. It's just as much as doing comfort comes at ease, doing logical things will come at ease. Do you know that I don't need any discipline for anything I do? Like, even if I have to poker 16 hours a day, it's quite stressful. I don't need discipline. Why do I break all these records? Why do I achieve so much? It's because I don't need discipline. Because I just get rewarded doing logical stuff. That's why I'm so ahead in many things. And if people click, they adopt that on a core level. Imagine if I tell you, like Destiny, everything that is logical will come automatic. And everything that is illogical, you will push it away. That's something that sounds very attractive.
But no, that's not true, because what is logical is fundamentally different to so many people. Like, there are other people on the planet that can be completely logical, that would say that every record you've broken is a waste of time because you're playing video games.
Indeed,
right? There are people that would say that. So how would you argue against those people? You're doing video game stuff.
What I always say is logic differentiates from person to person depending on the amount of knowledge they have about the objective reality.
But you haven't told me how you get any more knowledge about the objective reality. Why do you think you have so much? Through your experience? That's your perception. That's a subjective experience.
Yeah, indeed.
Okay, so then you're telling me that
how else would you learn stuff if you can't do it through your subjective senses? How else?
That's what I can give answers to that, but I'm asking you for the answers because you're the one who's selling the ideology. But you're not selling anything powerfully to me. Like, you're just telling me that a lot of the.
I just explained you. It will allow you to, align yourself with the objective reality more than ever.
No, it'll allow me to align myself with your objective reality. You haven't sold me that this reality is apart from you, is separate from you. Like, you're talking to me like you just spent a couple minutes hyping up your own personal achievements, which some people, and even on an objective world level scale, might not even care about. Somebody might say that same time, if you were so logical and rational, same time was spent in university studying something that maybe you could have accomplished something in the science or something, right?
I wasn't hyping up my own achievements. I was just making an example that I didn't need any discipline.
Sure, but the reason why you don't need discipline, is because you automatically follow every logical pathway to the optimal behavior. But some people would view your behavior as suboptimal because instead of contributing to a science or some kind of technology or engineering field, you're contributing to video games. So they would say that your behavior is inherently irrational, and that if the world were destroyed right now and aliens were to come back and exhume everything and figure out what happened, they would view you, Athene, and they would go, wow, this guy was the smartest guy in the world, but he only played video games. If you agree, then how can you argue that your path is completely rational, completely built on logic and reason?
I fully agree with that. There's also people that would argue that reaching 2.3 million children in need is just a waste of time because these are just Africans. But when it comes
but Norman Borlaug invented the fucking golden rice or whatever, and he saved over 1 billion lives in Africa. But that was a contribution that he made in science. I'm not trying to make this a dickwave content. I'm just saying that you're the one claiming that your actions are perfectly logical and reasonable. And I'm saying that there are other ways, even on a platform of logic and reason, to attack that. Like what you did for charity and everything is really great. But there are other people in agricultural fields or in political fields that have made similar contributions that have been able to save a magnitude greater of people because of their contributions in those fields.
I fully agree with what you say. But what I do have to say, though, at the same time is if you could have the person that is the most intelligent person on the planet to do something, what would he do? He would spread his awareness. And that's what I'm doing.
Okay, but if you were to conversely, if you were to find the most delusional people that believe in what they believe, what would they try to do? They would also try to spread their influence. It's the same thing. So how do you differentiate between the two?
The way you just differentiated it yourself. You called them delusional. And if you look up what the definition is of delusional, is acting against what is fact or what is reality. And my belief goes exactly in line with reality and facts.
In what way?
because you submit yourself to the objective reality. You submit yourself to logic, the patterns that bring it about.
But the objective reality that you claim you're submitting it yourself to has made the assertion that the optimal path for a person is to break records in video games. Do you see how there are people that...
True.
But you said
that's
you acted perfectly reasonably and perfectly logical. You said that about yourself. And in the actions that you've done, you brought up poker and video games.
With the knowledge I had, definitely. It's only since a month ago that I realized the 4 steps, because there was proof of concept. Because I knew this already 15 years ago, but because nobody clicked, I just thought, maybe it's just in my head. So just like a normal scientist, I just thought, like, if there is no proof of concept, I might as well just be delusional. But when I saw it happen and I saw the side effects and the actual effects, I measured them. I tried to reproduce the effects, and I saw that it was working. And that's why from that moment on, I've been fully focusing on spreading this awareness instead. Before, what I was doing with gaming and all these things was gaining a following to be able to spread a message. And I always compromised. On my message, because I thought, I'll just compromise because it seems that the way of making people more reasonable doesn't work. But now, since I understand the neuroscience and the steps, and it's reproducible, I can actually reproduce it in people. And I see people even on the Making Sense subreddit, even from the US, from all over the world, saying they're actually going through the same transformation. That for me gives me a lot of information that, pushed me to immediately start working on documentary and really commit on spreading that instead. So that's what you're going to see me do from now on. It's spreading
what's
that.
The difference?
The only reason...
But it seems like all you're doing is just telling people to be reasonable or logical. I don't understand what's so revolutionary about that.
What is revolutionary is that you are not reasonable and you're not logical. What you do is you use reason and logic to fulfill your core value, which is comfort for most people. And if that core value is logic instead, then there is no duality anymore. So basically, you use reason and logic not to fulfill a certain core value anymore, that is comfort. No, it's just aligned with it. And the ethical and moral compass just comes and flows out of understanding what we are through evolutionary biology and neuroscience.
Okay, so what idea are you pushing forth here that you claim is a unique idea that hasn't been explored or put forth before?
People like that people can connect their reward center to logic instead of to comfort, for example.
So you don't think you don't think anybody has ever made the claim that you could be happy being a reasonable, rational person?
It's about submitting yourself to logic. That's what it's about.
Okay, but anybody that would feel very strongly as an atheist or an agnostic has already gone through this process.
No, that's not true, because it was much harder in the past. Well, maybe recently, maybe it would have happened. I'm not claiming that it's impossible. It's unlikely, though, and the reason why it's unlikely is because if you make that jump, your mission is to spread it.
Why would you necessarily be... Maybe, what if you have the realization that it's very difficult to spread ideologies to other people that don't have massive problems in their own lives?
Well, if I would be logical, I would think I have to understand why people are like that, because there is a logical explanation, and this will give me more insight in the ability to spread it. So every problem that you get just becomes an equation you can solve.
Okay, but
and you just do research.
I consider myself to be very strongly atheist, and I consider religion to be very foolish, but I don't go around trying to convert everybody to atheism, because I realize that thoughts of religion are very deeply ingrained in somebody and have been nurtured for sometimes decades in a person's life. So the reason
why you don't go and spread it around is because you probably submit yourself to comfort and you feel more comfortable just not doing spreading, being in your comfort bubble. That is what drives you. Because if you would tomorrow figure out, the equation to save the world, for example, through an awareness hack, you would be driven every single moment of your life to spread it. So you not wanting to spread it says more about what drives you than about actually making a point that would go against me wanting to spread this. And the thing is, what is even more important is that this is tomorrow or Wednesday the documentary comes out, right? And you can see it, but to be honest, I would say the best thing that we can do is just see how the academic world will react to it. We will see, they will try to do peer reviews. You will hear a lot more.
There's nothing
from
to
this.
peer review, though.
Yes, of course, because if you can have a person with psychological problems or a person that has a lot of issues or social anxiety go through this and suddenly go from social anxiety to no social anxiety completely and become really a rational being, that is a psychological phenomena that the psychological world would be very interested in.
Okay,
I mean, like,
hold on. Firstly, to circle back around, just because you feel very strongly about a personal belief system, and just because you feel that you are rational or logical, doesn't necessarily mean that it will drive you to spread that belief system to every other person.
Well,
there are people that have irrational belief systems that are driven to spread.
About that.
Okay.
That has fully to do with neurotheology. If you look at theology and religion, people that are committed religious people, right? People that truly submit to God have a strong need to spread it. It's part of the mechanism of religion. And the similar thing happens with logic. It's just a similar, you've seen the light in a sense, which is logic, and you want to spread it. And the reason why you want to spread it is because that's literally, when you then look at more at evolutionary biology, that's what cells try to do. They try to spread their information by just splitting. Same with you. What you're trying to do is, for a big part, spread your information through reproduction or whatever, like spreading your awareness or spreading your DNA or spreading information is literally, for a big part, the red line between our evolutionary biology. And the reason why I have such a need to spread it is because I can achieve a lot more with 2 people than just by myself. I can achieve even more with 4 or with 8, with 16. And that is the thing, like and the problem to which then you can argue, yeah, to which extent will it spread or not, to which extent it will spread is to which extent it is in line with the objective reality. Because if it is in line with the objective reality, academic will do the research, they will come to these conclusions, and they will also start seeing that this is actually going to change the world. Poverty is going to completely go away. We will literally, if everybody has logic as their core value, live in an utopia, in a sense where human suffering just doesn't exist anymore, because it doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense that half like that one part of the population is eating themselves to death, while the other half is starving. Like, there's so much things that don't make sense.
The reason why these things don't make sense, though, is because you don't understand the mechanisms of how they come into play. I don't understand. Like, you're making it sound like, of all the children that you went and visited, did you view these people as idiots that just weren't accepting of logic to feed themselves? Like, did you have to like hand feed all these people that you met? I don't understand.
Like, what I'm just saying is, like, these are global side effects of the psychology of each individual. But once you go through this click transformation, you take action, and you don't just are part of the problem. You don't contribute to the problem. And imagine if everybody starts, contributing to the solution rather than just like doing things that is goes against what they are, like smoking or eating stuff that really cause them to have diseases and health problems. Imagine if people start shifting their actions and removing all their bad habits. The world changes from the core, from people, from the psychology of people. And when I just talk about the world doesn't make sense, is because every single person individually submits to things that don't make sense. But the moment you submit yourself to logic, the world will start to make sense.
Yeah, but this has been like the whole central thing to my point is that you have no mechanism to force somebody to submit themselves to whatever it is that you claim is logic.
I don't need to force people to submit to logic. They will want it.
But then why haven't they done it already?
Because I didn't even come out with the documentary. It's very new. There is already more than 50 people that did click. And it's only going to start spreading more and more. And that's why I will be in a different position next year than now. Because next year I would have more data. And like I said in the start of the conversation, I will be either in a stronger position or in a weaker one, depending on the objective reality, depending on the evidence. If next year there is papers and it's on the news and stuff, then I also think you would have a very different attitude towards all this, because you would say like, maybe there is some truth in what he's saying.
Well, no, I understand a lot of what you're saying, because I think I went through a lot of these thoughts myself when I was younger, because you have to make this transition going from being religious to a-religious. You have to find some other form of generating ethics and morals in a way that's consistent with the world around you. I understand understand the process that I think you've gone through. But the problem is you're taking this a step farther and you're assuming that you can push this process onto other people because of quote unquote logic. I say push it on, but you're not saying push. You're saying they will naturally gravitate to it. But what I'm telling you is that people that are already feeling good about themselves aren't going to gravitate towards a totally different belief system.
I agree with that.
So then by your own admittance, you're only really preying on people that are seriously fucked in the head, right? That sounds like what you're saying then. So if you what does it say about a particular belief system if the only people that are capable of buying into it are people that are emotionally compromised? Isn't that kind of what you're saying?
No, that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is people that feel really good and comfortable will not gravitate towards it because they won't feel a need to do so. But you also have to understand why don't they feel a need to do so and why do they feel comfortable? Because their environment provides for that comfort, and that's the intersubjective reality.
Okay, but what about an environment that doesn't provide for the comfort of your specific brand of philosophy? That would make it inferior to a religious one. If I live in Saudi Arabia, I'm not going to reject. I'm not going to reject the Sunnis and decide to take up a logical.
I fully agree with you on the point you're making there. But what I also want to say is that's why the intersubjective reality is so important, and that's what's going to convince these people that are already feeling comfortable. Because the people that are feeling comfortable, the reason why they live the life they live, it's not because they've thought about it. It's because it's just what their inner child craves to. And if they see their environment more gravitating towards, for example, this logic thing, they will just automatically more gravitate towards it as well. And that's why the more intelligent people, the more people that are more critical, the people that have more emotional intelligence will be the ones that click first.
Then what's all this? So then if the only people then, by your own admittance, if you say the only people that are gravitating towards this are people that are seeking some other comfort center, and that people that are living in environments where they're already fine with the way they're thinking are going to gravitate towards this way of thinking, how is this a paradigm shift? It seems like the only thing you'll do is pull in some people that are feeling uncomfortable and looking for a different kind of philosophy, and instead of buying into religion or any other thing, they'll buy into yours.
What you would have is you would have a ripple effect that is caused partially because of the intersubjective reality and partially because of the objective reality. The objective reality is defined by the successes that people that clicked went through, such as
the objective reality is solved by successes, but I mean, you could go through any number of ideologies. Again, you can have a religious epiphany that can cure depression or anxiety, depending on how that manifests in your head. But do you think that religious epiphany gets you any closer to objective reality as any other number of cures? Like, again, this objective reality that you're talking about is manifesting itself in very subjective ways. I don't know why it's even called the objective reality.
Because the objective reality, first of all, is a terminology that people more easily understand. And objective reality...
Yeah, but you can't just make up words and then people...
The thing is, though, like objective reality is things that happen independently of emotions, thoughts, and beliefs.
Okay, but how can you have something that happens independently of emotions if we're literally talking about mental diseases that affect your emotions?
Because you can measure it in the brain.
Okay, which is your emotions, right? Like, when you talk about dopamine and serotonin, you're talking about neurotransmitters that are
Yes, but the thing is that is why that's where the subjective reality becomes an objective one when you start studying neuroscience. Neuroscience is literally the studies of the emotions. It's the objective reality of emotions. And it's not because you have emotions, thoughts, and feelings that therefore they're completely independent of the objective reality. No, you can understand them by looking at how the brain works.
Okay, of course, and nobody disagrees with this. Nobody disagrees with this. This has been well understood for a long time. But you said that you could measure in the objective reality people clicking and all of a sudden becoming better. But I'm telling you that people could find other ideologies and click with those and become better as well. That doesn't really speak to the efficacy of either model.
The thing is, though, it is about the amount of impact. It's like you can use a certain drug, right, to make your horse run faster. And then you can use another drug that makes your horse run even faster. And then what you just say, is, okay, we have statistics here. This type of drug makes the horse on average run 10 miles an hour faster, and this drug's 20 miles an hour. So it's about, at the end of the day, it's about the measurable impact of people that click will have on the world. And that is what will start rippling.
What kind of qualitative or rather quantitative measurements are you taking?
Like the ability, for example, to just make connections and solve math.
So you think that
you'll be
people
able
that click are going to be more mathematically capable
Yes.
afterwards?
Yes, a lot more actually.
How?
Because the way your brain works, you can really compare it. You're both hemispheres as two different processors. One is more speaking to the emotions and your experience, while the other is more the reason part of the brain. And the thing is, whenever there is duality, while your emotions wants one thing and your rationality wants another thing, you need to use processing power to resolve this. And the thing is, once logic is your core value on an emotional level, what happens is almost like instead of these two processors fighting against each other, they start working side by side. And that's why people that click go through a crazy intelligence boost. And that's why they become more intelligent. Because honestly, myself.
Hold on.
Like,
so I'm just trying to understand this. So kind of like, so you're saying that it's kind of like the brain is like a dual core processor?
Well, I'm just giving the metaphor, yes. Like you have the left and the right hemisphere.
Okay.
And,
you know that the left and right hemisphere of your brain aren't parallel. They're not the exact same on both sides, right?
Yes,
you
I
have
know.
Different...
I know that.
Okay, so like the hippocampus isn't going to magically start chewing through integrals for you because you feel more emotionally happy, right? Like.
No, but what it will do, though, is as you don't experience duality, your working memory is much bigger, and your ability to make connections is much better, and your ability to even do math is much better. Because a lot of the times, while people like, let's say, take a guy that wants to do math, and have him, for example, not sleep for a few days, his performance will go down. But the thing is, like, in a sense, when we walk around with this duality, our performance is limited constantly by this core value, by this inner child clinging to something that is not in line with what it is.
First of all, that's a really huge claim. Firstly, the lack of sleep has very real physiological impacts on your body. Like that's a very real
duality.
So duality might at the moment that you're experiencing it, but I don't think that like a religious person working on something on some kind of math problem, deep seated in his mind, has trouble reconciling the fact that there is actually
psychological studies that show that the extent to which you actually enjoy doing what you're doing greatly increases your performance and even your ability to learn and memory. There is studies that show that. So if you're in line with yourself and you're fully committed to doing what is logical, your performance will just be way higher than if you are doing a math equation while thinking about what your parents think or what the person.
Okay, but there could be plenty of people that have no desire to learn math that all of a sudden click with your process and still have no desire to learn math. They're not all of a sudden going to love and embrace math and want to go and learn it. Well, what you were just saying, you said earlier that learning this process will make you better at math, and now you switched that into saying that, well, if you really love math and you're not stressed about something else, now you'll be better at it. Of course, nobody disagrees with that.
The following, listen to this, what you do is you're much more motivated and much more, not even motivated, you're much more in line with what you are and just want to do what's logical because that's what rewards you. So if I give them a mathematical test in order before they clicked, for example, to test their performance, they're working on it, there is more duality in their brain, they test lower. So after the click, for them it's logical to fill in the test because it allows people to see the difference. So they will just work on the test, and for them it's logical to, at that point, answer these mathematical equations just as much as it was logical to them to solve it before. But the difference with before is that they also had duality because they wanted maybe to fit in, or maybe because on a subconscious level they're thinking about another thing. And the thing is with logic as your core value, what it does is what you desire on an emotional level aligns with what you desire on a rational level, and that is what that's what creates a very big boost in your performance and in your compatibility with reality. And that is, that is something that can be measured, and that is why it's literally much more effective than believing in God, for example. Because if you believe in God and you go around and there's people around you that make you question your faith in God because they show like, oh, here is a discrepancy, here is a discrepancy. The faith get hit and it goes at the cost of a lot of duality. But if logic is your core value, you literally walk with the world next to you, with the reality next to you. Your confidence is much more powerful because you always fall back on that objective reality because that's what your paradigm is based on.
But a religious person could throw those same questions back at you and give you your own duality. What happens to you after you die? Where were you before you were born? Who created the universe? What is the purpose
I can
of
answer
us
all
on
these
this planet?
questions,
No,
by
you
the
can't.
way.
What happens to you after you die? Where does your soul or spirit go?
With technology going the way it is, you're better off. You have better odds being immortal because of science than because there is an afterlife. And there is already scientists actually already saying that the one that is going to be mortal might already be alive.
How is
and
somebody going to be immortal?
Because of technological advancements. You can actually look it up. Even Google itself has, more than $1 billion investment in trying to cure age, because aging is actually a disease. The reason why we accept that we're going to die is because we submit ourselves to an intersubjective reality that tells us we're going to die, but the facts and the objective reality allows us to overcome it. And that's why logic is so much more powerful.
Okay, so if you were in your
eternal life, I'll give it to
if you were in your
technology,
old
much more
age,
likely.
if you were in your 60s or 70s and you didn't have, years and years to wait, and you were an atheist and some religious person questions what's going to happen to you after you die, or what is your purpose in life, or what was the reason of the creation of the universe or whatever, how do you answer these questions? Why doesn't your system of logic crumble there as you experience duality and you try to answer these unanswerable questions?
Even in these regards, you can still answer it, but these are more what is it? Like these are more anecdotal scientific thoughts. But even there, I could give an answer.
Sure, but your answers are much less satisfying than church doctrine.
Quantum immortality. Quantum immortality, for example.
What is quantum immortality?
Quantum immortality goes from the idea that the many world interpretation is correct and that there is infinite versions of you. And whatever you make a decision, every single decision you would ever make actually happens simultaneously. And the quantum many world interpretation is actually one that is accepted by quite a lot of scientists. So it's not just completely
Wait, how can
crazy.
how can it be accepted if it's not testable? In what ways can we test it?
They believe it. They believe it. Like,
that's not how science works.
No, I know that, but it's about beliefs. It's like
no, science isn't about beliefs. That's not true. We just talked about the scientific process earlier.
I know science is not about beliefs, but I'm just saying if you ask a lot of scientists, when it's about interpretation of quantum mechanics, they have their own specific beliefs based on...
Wait, what do you mean interpretation of quantum mechanics? QM is a very real thing that gives us very real solutions to very real problems that we have.
There is many different interpretations, whether... The Copenhagen interpretation, for example, goes from the idea that the wave collapses and the reality we experience is the only one. Then you have the many world interpretation goes from the idea that the wave doesn't collapse and therefore there has to be infinite universes.
Okay, but if these infinite universes exist, we have absolutely no way to test for them, which means that they are more or less irrelevant. Like, for you to believe in a multi-world universe or whatever, what's the difference between that and believing in any kind of God or higher power?
Yes and no, because you have the ability, like, let's say you have the ability to measure whether the wave collapses or not. You can actually differentiate and see whether the many world interpretation is more likely or the Copenhagen interpretation is more likely. Actually, very recently, like the wave tide. No, like the wave. There's a certain new interpretation that was before disproven that is now more in the news because of the EM drive that NASA made. And it's just like it is still, you can through experiments see whether or not one interpretation is more likely than the other. And I'm just saying there's a lot of scientists that think that the many world interpretation is more likely. Whether that is true or not, that's not been proven yet, and we don't have evidence. But I'm just saying, like,
okay, so even if the many world interpretation was true, how does that make you feel any better about dying in this world?
But the thing is, though, like, since you only experience the version that is still alive, you will always,
Okay, there's no way that QM provides a process for your conscious to travel from one world to another.
It's not about your consciousness to travel. It's about if you look at your consciousness from like, because that's what starts happening when you start asking these questions from a scientific point of view. What is time? What is tomorrow? From a quantum point of view, like you could almost say, is time and space even exist? And when you take time and space out of the equation, what is even death? I mean, in a certain sense, you're changing every single time. Are you still the baby then that you were born? Like, you change all the time. Our idea of death is more a concept that is brought about our identity and our emotional attachment to it, rather than what reality or facts are. And logic allows you to answer these questions.
Okay, so
to give you more insight.
You genuinely believe in all of everything that you just said, right?
How you mean?
In everything that you just said, because you have logic as your guiding principle, you genuinely believe in that explanation that you gave me.
I don't know if it's absolutely true.
Okay, so if somebody as a demonstration to convert a bunch of people over to your religion, handed you a gun and asked you to kill yourself to prove what you believe in, would you do it, since you would still exist in the other universes where you wouldn't do it? And what would stop you from doing it? Why wouldn't you pull the trigger?
But the thing is, like, now you're talking about...
I'm asking you to kind of test your hypothesis. If you're saying that you believe that many
I will answer. I will answer your question. Like, this was just for me an existential satisfying answer to people, just as much as God and heaven is an existential satisfying answer. You just don't know if it's true or not. I don't need these explanations myself, because I know that identity doesn't exist. I know that I'm an ever-changing unit every single moment, and that the idea of death is actually just an idea in my head. I am fully aware of that. That's why I'm not afraid of death. I'm only afraid of death if someone is pulling a gun in front of me and my chemicals in my brain trigger a flight or fight response. But other than that, I'm not afraid of death at all, because I understand that it's nonsensical to be afraid of death.
Why would it be scared to cease living? Why is that an irrational fear?
Because you're projecting yourself in the future, and you're thinking, oh, why am you're basically thinking about an idea dying in the future that is completely irrelevant to the current moment.
What if you enjoy living and you want to further that as much as possible? I think that's common, to want to further a satisfactory experience or a pleasurable one.
But what you drive and what you desire, like what I said throughout the entire conversation, is brought about what you submit yourself on a fundamental level. So if comfort is your core value, or feeling good is your core value, then you could have that anxiety. But if logic is your core value, then instead of that being your anxiety, what you try to do is just try to evolve as a superorganism, because that has brought about what we are to begin with. And you see the world much more as a collective organism, rather than just you yourself as an identity person. Just as much as a cell in your body works to keep you alive, you as a human are just part of a bigger picture. And that is the thing. You just, like, the idea of being self-centered just vanishes, and you become much more selfless and much more connected with the people around you, because you realize that the idea of identity, and this is who I am, is just a dysfunctional idea based on thinking, oh, this is like through conditioning and through believing in stories or whatever. But what you actually are is just your consciousness, which is which is the neural activity that represents everything, including your environment. So you just think differently when logic is your core value, because you just see, like, yeah, if I'm talking right now to you from a consciousness perspective, you're part of my existence, and I cannot disconnect the two. The reason why I identify with this body or with this story is just something that happens in the brain, and it is actually just a practicality. But in reality, my environment, all the impulse, the light, the space that I experience, all takes place in my consciousness. And to identify just with your own body is just flawed, and that's something you learn when you go into neuroscience and understand what consciousness is. Like, you just understand, oh yeah, like, it doesn't make any sense to have this identity. It doesn't make any sense to think I'm, to think I have this story or whatever, because my neural activity is constantly changing. I'm constantly something else. Like, now I'm saying this, and my activity is like this, and tomorrow I'm something else. Like, you're constantly ever changing. Yeah, just imagine if you get cloned right now. Who are you? I mean, like, you're just the activity in your brain. That's it. I mean,
what's wrong with the activity in your brain and the current culmination of all your experiences and all of the summation of everything? Like, why can't that be your identity?
If you clone yourself, right?
Sure.
Then what is the identity of your clone?
I mean, it
Imagine
would
if
be
you're the
different
clone.
because you would be divergent at the moment of creation. You would have different experiences and different perceptions. It would be a different person.
Imagine you get cloned right now.
Sure.
All your stories, all your IDs, everything is not yours. It was your clones. Like it was the originals. So like where do you keep your identity? It's like the identity is just a flawed construct.
I don't understand. I don't understand. You could say it's a flawed construct.
It is flawed. It's scientifically flawed, by the way.
What do you mean it's
story.
scientifically flawed to believe that you are yourself? How is
To
it?
believe your story and your identity is just completely flawed. You might as well believe you're Superman. It's dysfunctional.
Well, that's not true because believing that you're Superman conveys some kind of power that you can't demonstrate or conveys something that is completely exists outside of reality, the objective reality that you talk about so much. I don't understand how you can't claim to have an identity.
Everything, all your memories are constantly being, like all the memories you experience, by the way, every single action you have gone through has been stored differently than actually what happened. And you're constantly, every time when you even remember something, do you know you change your memory? There is even tests about that they can even make you believe you did something you didn't do at all. Like, and it happens all the time.
Your concept of self and your memory
I'm
might be
just saying
flawed,
you
but that
cannot-
doesn't make them completely irrational or completely
what I'm just
worthless.
saying is the objective, no, it's not worthless at all. It is actually very valuable. It's valuable information just as much as what your ancestors did is valuable information. But having an emotional attachment to your identity is as dysfunctional as back in the days, people having an emotional identity to their ancestors. There's actually people right now that are still like hurting themselves because of what their ancestors did, because they identify and say this is part of who I am.
Okay, but that's
You
a different
call
type.
them
But we're
new.
not talking about any kind of ancestral
same
guilt.
thing.
Well, no, I
It's
don't.
the
I don't
same
think so. I don't understand.
Wait,
You can have a
but
personal identity without feeling guilt for your
But
ancestors.
let me tell you something. Like it's the same thing in the sense that you let the history define certain dysfunctional ideas that are just not practical at this point. And people do that all the time with their identity. They want to live up to a certain ID or they want to do something, whatever. While if you just look at it and you just let it go, like it's just like it makes you much more in line with your current objective reality. How many people chase dreams or chase things that are just not in line with reality, which limits them just because they have this emotional attachment to this ID? And that's why also like, for
Yeah, but
example,
on the flip
Power of
side, there are
Now-
people that use that same emotional drive to chase a dream that end up accomplishing things that they never would have had they not been chasing that dream in the first place. You can find tons of stories like that. Even scientific innovation sometimes can come across as a result of that kind of stuff.
Yes, indeed, but it's all about statistics, though, because you could make the same argument for lottery. You could say, like, if you play the lottery, you can win, and then you can say there is many people that won the lottery, but it's still minus EV. It's just minus EV to submit yourself to an identity which lowers the chances of you being compatible with the objective reality than submitting yourself to something which increases the odds. And how do you increase the odds? By
But again,
aligning
even by
belief
your
system.
own definitions, that might not necessarily be true because because reality is intersubjective. You could submit yourself to some kind of subjective comfort that happens to play more in line with the current reality than your belief system does, and that thing would be EV plus because that belief system is more compatible with the society or culture you live in.
If your belief system is in line with the objective reality, the odds are in your favor. You might.
If you were to go back in time 5,000, or let's say you go back in time and you're Galileo's best friend. Okay, well, even right now, let's say that you go to a place like Syria or Saudi Arabia or something, and you decide to become an objective, logical person. What belief system is going to give you the greatest EV?
Like even there, by the way, if I would be in Saudi Arabia, right? Even there, with my knowledge, with my current knowledge, right? I would be better off having logic as my core value and pretend that I'm religious. And honestly, there's a lot of people that do that. I myself, my father is Moroccan. I know a lot of Muslims myself, and there's a lot of Muslims that pretend to be Muslim just because into subjective reality, but in essence are atheists or agnostic. So like that, it still makes you more compatible with reality. But they keep the
Wouldn't you be living
layer.
every single day with an uncomfortable cognitive or an uncomfortable duality because you are having to represent yourself as being religious and?
that's the beauty of logic. If logic is your core value, you just accept reality for what it is. And if I'm living with other people, and if I say like, oh, I don't believe in God, my head gets chopped off, then I can easily accept that, because it's logical to then pretend you're religious. And that's the beauty with logic. It rewards you. So every time you will pretend to be religious, since it's logical to do, because you don't get your head chopped off, will reward you. So it's still even better. That's the beauty of logic. No matter which situation you're in, if you have enough knowledge, because this I said, if you put me, because if you go back to someone in Saudi Arabia right now, for example, they're better off just believing in like, there's many cases where they're better off just believing what they still believe in. I will not deny that, because they don't have the the logical capacities and the knowledge in order to put it into practice and fruition. And that's why I also said that this will first ripple amongst the more intellectual people of society, and that's how it's going to start cascading, because they will see much more impact and much more productivity and much better results in their actions. And that's, at the end of the day, what we get judged on. It's the objective reality. The objective reality defines everything. Even the intersubjective reality is defined by the objective reality. But the thing is the intersubjective reality is just a layer on top of that can make you a lot less compatible, a lot less in connection with it, and as a result brings about duality. And that is the thing. That is why adopting logic as a core value will allow you to instead desire like comfort or whatever, or even reason. Do you know that most of the reasoning, most of even this discussion, like there is a goal you have during this conversation, and I have a goal. And the goal you have is defined by your core value, and the goal that I have is defined by my core value. The reason why I'm having this conversation is because I want to spread this insight. I don't know what the reason is you have this conversation, but you have a goal to have this conversation. And it is with everything you do. And being able to figure out what it is that drives your actions, and seeing that it is actually realizing it, depending to which extent, like you think it's reasonable to do or not. But it's an emotional process, of course, to see whether or not it benefits you or not. You can replace it with logic. And that is why people that, like also people, like I said, people that are in a harder situation, not just people that have, mental disorders or something, but it's also people, for example, that have a hard setting in their country and stuff or whatever, will more easily adopt this, because it allows them to be more in line with reality. It gives them actually an ability to be more fulfilled. But I do understand people that have comfort as their core value, and everything is comfortable for the time being. Yeah, they will more likely stick to that. Although if they really reflect and realize that it actually is not so beneficial, they might push it away and replace it with logic. But at the end of the day, it's an emotional process, and I know it will take time. But I do also know that it will spread, because it is in line with the objective reality. It's like it's real. It's and of course I will have the academic. That's what I believe, by the way. I'm not 100%, but that's why the academic world will have the academic world do peer review and see to which extent these claims I'm making can be reproduced or not.
So I guess the problem that I have is that I consider myself to be a very rational, very logical person. I'm very big on using, if you talk to anybody on my stream, even people that hate me, I'm very big on going through very clear reasonings for any of the things that I do, any of the things that I believe in. And I consider myself to be somebody that is all of my beliefs are centered around what I consider to be very logical belief systems. But so I guess my problem is, like, as a part of me understanding and accepting and at least believing in me being logical and rational, I understand that there are other people that might not necessarily feel the same way. So when somebody represents themselves as having a belief system that outwardly appears to be similar to mine, but then tries to push that onto, I guess, emotionally vulnerable people, or try to claim that this belief system will all of a sudden turn their life around, when I think that there's a lot more that goes into it than just buying into some kind of belief system that you keep claiming is subjective in so many different areas, despite trying to sell some kind of connection to an ultra objective reality and logic and reason. I guess it just kind of it rubs me the wrong way, because it feels like you're just taking advantage of people
I do understand
that get caught up in the buzzwords.
I do understand.
You still haven't given me like what set, like every single possible positive outcome that you have listed for your belief system could come just as easily from buying into any other number of delusions, whether that's a particular brand of religion.
True.
But it's absolutely true. What can I get from your thing that I don't get from joining like the YMCA? Like you'll say it gives me a better connection to an objective reality, and then I'll say, what do you mean? And you'll say, well, that's subjective. And then it's like, well, then what does anything mean?
Like the thing is, like, imagine you give two people a project and they gotta build a plane, and one guy can go about building a plane by praying to God, and the other guy can build a plane by understanding how planes work and go about it using the scientific method. The one situation is the one that happened until the 1500s, and everything you experience is what happened since the 1500s. So if you ask me for an argument to align your belief system with the objective reality and using logic as what guides you, and say that doesn't help you more, then you're not so logical than you're trying to proclaim, because you're literally saying that going against logic and going against the objective reality can achieve as much than going through it. That is just not true.
Okay, so if I were to take a survey of every single engineer designed that works in aeronautics and every single person involved in the construction of an airplane, you're telling me that all of those people will have logic as their core belief?
No, of course not.
Then how are they able to build the planes that you just said that you need logic as your core belief to build?
But the thing is, like, what you don't understand is I'm talking about the emotions that drives you.
Okay, but the emotions that drive these people could be, maybe I want to make the world a better place, and I want to give people the ability to travel across the world, and I want to work on these cool scientific projects, even selfishly, because I think they're really cool, but from that selfishness stems some kind of desire to help the greater good, because I'll get recognition for it.
I agree.
These are all, so why is your system superior to any of these other driving mechanisms?
It will make you it would make you drastically more competent and impactful by just following logic and desire logic.
But nothing about these other belief systems impede your ability to be impactful, or impede your ability to learn, or impede your ability.
It does inhibit you like crazy, because if what drives you is comfort, you will have a harder time working out. You will have a harder time eating healthy. You will always need discipline, because.
But what if that comfort? But that's not true. That inner comfort could be knowing that the pain of working out is something that will lead to a better body, or the pain of not indulging in junk food leads you to a healthier body.
That is what a lot of people do. They patch up their flawed core value with logic because it works.
But it might not necessarily even be a patch. Have you ever heard utilitarianism is the belief that you do things for the goodness of other people. Some people say that there is no such thing as a utilitarian because they're driven by the selfish desire to help others. Like, I think that you can always go one level deeper. Like, people replacing whatever core value they have with logic. What if they're doing that just because they're seeking comfort?
Well, the thing is, like, the reason why you're saying this is because you don't have logic as your core value.
No, but for real,
like if you have logic as your core value, you just think differently.
What different thought? I consider myself to be a very, very logical person. What am I missing?
But you say you're a very logical person, yet you've been arguing the past hours that submitting yourself to logic and the objective reality wouldn't bring about a paradigm that is more in line with reality.
No, I think that it would. I think that it would. But my problem is you haven't given a good argument for it. And it's the reason why I don't go around parading my ideology and claiming that I'm the most intelligent person to have ever existed, more so than Einstein. I don't do that because I know that arguing these kinds of subjective feelings to others requires an insurmountable mountain of fundamental belief that you have to convey, and you can't just do it by saying embrace logic. What is logic? That's the whole point of this argument. Logic means different things to different people, and then when you say that logic is subjective, well, that's the premise for your entire system of beliefs. So then everything kind of crumbles under that. But then you keep
that's not true, because I already debunked the fact that by saying it's subjective to debunk it, because everything is inherently subjective, so you can't use that argument because the subjective reference frame has to be part of the premise.
If I say that everything is subjective, and then you say that debunks my argument, you're saying that it debunks my argument because it debunks your argument. So that puts us back on the same playing field.
No, that is not true, because if you make a statement that is applicable to everything and is required in the premises in order to make the argumentation, it is just something you have to accept. It's not something you can debate. It's like, I do agree you need a subjective reference frame, but it doesn't make it so once you have the subjective reference frame as a premise that you can't just go through your experience and see through the scientific method what is more or less likely.
Okay, but we're not talking about our frame of reference as being subjective. We were talking about what the actual thing that the subject that you're talking about, the idea of logic itself being subjective, not the frame of reference of the person inheriting the logic.
The reason why logic is subjective is because it's defined by the amount of information and knowledge you have about the objective reality. Because if you have
you said that the objective reality is subjective, though.
Yeah, but like the objective reality is subjective when you really go to the essence of the philosophical question. But the objective reality, when you define it as what we are subject to independently of our emotions, thoughts, and beliefs, you basically state a definition, and then you use that definition to make your arguments. So that's why we are having two different discussions. One where you go really to the philosophical essence, and then I go like, yeah, of course I agree everything is subjective on the essence, but that doesn't refute that if you submit yourself to logic and try to understand the objective reality, that your ability to be more compatible with it will go up like crazy.
Okay, but submitting yourself to logic and accepting the objective reality is what your belief system is about, right? Submitting yourself to logic and accepting the objective reality, right? That sentence means very different things to different people. How do you reconcile that?
But I wanna say something about that. But first, about logic being subjective, it's defined by the amount of understanding and knowledge you have about the objective reality. And if two people have similar knowledge about the objective reality, their logical conclusions will be similar when they talk to each other. So let's say about what you say about logic having a different definition for all these other people. That's another problem that you're bringing up, and I can make the same argument for God. How many people believe in God? 6.4 billion. Go ask every single person what they think about God. They will all have their own ideas. Yet still, they all follow, their understanding of what is it, the Quran or the Bible, to follow their life. So I'm not going to say everybody that submits to logic will suddenly, go and walk the same way as everybody else. No, at all. What happens when you submit yourself to logic is you go through life by thinking critically for yourself, and depending on the amount of knowledge and information you have on the objective reality, you will adapt your behavior. I have done things in the past. If I would have the information I have now, I would have done completely different. Like, honestly, if I knew about the 4 steps, I would have been spreading it when I was 20 instead. But the reality shows that, I'm ignorant. I am ignorant. I need to learn to experience more and more, and that is what I do. And going about it logically, going about it, systematically, understanding the consistent patterns, understanding how the brain works, trying to not be biased and stuff, and really using the scientific method in my life in trying to, measure whether things have impact or not, and deciding based on that whether I'm going to choose this or that is what allowed me to come where I am now. And it's
okay, so then connect this one more time. So then connect this one more time, because I guess I missed it or I didn't understand it. So then it sounds like all you're saying then is that people should be more logical or rational in their approach to problem solving. How is this something that's incredibly unique? What is the incredibly unique part? Everything you're describing are things that I've...
But the thing is, the problem, honestly, Destiny, the problem is that you're not listening to me. Like I've said from the get-go, literally from the start of the conversation, it's an emotional thing. You have an emotional desire to do what you do, and you use your reason to achieve that. That's how we have evolved.
Okay, but what's unique about that thought?
But the thing is, what's unique is that you have the ability to change what drives you on a fundamental level. And if it becomes logic instead of comfort, rather than desiring to have more and more comfort, you will desire to do logical stuff, and that is revolutionary. I keep repeating this. It's an emotional thing. It's not something like the reason thing is already all around it. It's the emotional thing that drives us. It's the emotional thing that and emotions can drive you to build planes, even if it's comfort. You can use the reason still, but by emotionally submitting yourself to logic, it's what you will start desiring, and it will really have a tremendous shift in clarity and ability.
Okay, hold on. I think that my mind just snapped. I think I understand what you're saying. Okay, so let me just summarize. So are you trying to say that you're replacing your emotional drive with logic itself?
Yes.
So then do you just stop processing emotions?
No. What happens when you emotionally replace your drive with logic, which you can do on a neurological level, and that's what happened with people, and that's also what's being measured with people that start believing in God. What happens is you desire logical stuff. And when you experience inner conflict, you try to understand it, because you also understand how your emotions works, because you still have emotions.
Then you're not replacing emotions with logic at all. You're just trying to be more.
What you're doing is you're connecting logic with your reward center. So your emotions don't just completely vanish. But what happens is when you experience, like, for example, like a certain level of stress or whatever, like I'll give you an example. Katarina experienced quite a lot of stress the past days. Normally, the way she would go about it is just like I don't know, like just freak out or whatever. But now she was really trying to understand, oh, okay, what is it, this and that? And then she figured out, oh, it's anemia, it's hormone imbalance. You just go about things trying to understand how you work, because it's logical that the hormones decide the balances of, you know, how much stress you have or how much, you know, like whatever, like everything you experience physically has a logical reason. And what people normally do when they go through certain emotional turbulence in their life, they go about it very impulsively, and they go about it very, you know, like which can cause even more damage and make them even more emotional.
Okay, I understand more. I understand more about what you're getting at. But your own definition kind of betrays what you're claiming. So you're saying that you're trying to replace your inner drives that are driven emotionally with logic. But the problem is that logic is just being fed by an underlying emotion, by your desire to make sense out of patterns, right? Which is a very intrinsic, right? If you have so much of a background in neurobiology or whatever, right, you know that humans excel in finding patterns, right? That's one of the things that we excel at more than anything else. And it leaves us prone to a lot of cognitive bias, right? That the ability for humans to find patterns is one of our greatest survival assets. But that survival instinct, right? That desire to find patterns, that's just a baser emotion that's feeding into this whatever logic that's still sitting beneath it, right?
Yes, I understand.
So if you're
I'm fundamentally emotional being, just like you do. You are.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that, because it's our nature as humans, and we're biologically wired that way. So then how are you replacing your emotions with logic if the emotions are always going to be beneath it?
No, like what I'm just saying is what stimulates your reward center on a fundamental level, what your inner child clings on to provide its safety, is logic. That's all. But it's still an emotional need, but you're just much more in line with what you are, that's all. And you become much more compatible. That's it.
I guess I understand, but I still feel like this isn't that unique of an idea. Like, there are people that will sit at a poker table and they'll eat, even though some people say it's bad luck, but they'll still eat because they don't care, because logically they know that this is bullshit. And there are people that...
I'm telling you, like a Destiny, since you understand what I'm saying, like, go through the 4 steps.
But I can't, there's nothing to go... Walk me through the steps, and I'll tell you if I get stuck on one.
Step 1 is... You have to have unconditional love in logic, and you have to trust it and love it. That's the first one.
Okay, I consider myself to be very logical and very rational,
but you have to emotionally love it. You have to love it.
I mean, I like things that make sense, and I'm very emotionally invested in being logical. What does that? What more? What difference?
Well, it's just like you have to imagine, like your inner child. Would it be able to, just like hugging a teddy bear or hugging its mom, could it hug logic?
Yeah, I like it when things make sense, and when people have an argument with me and I can't win the argument, or I feel like they have better facts than me, then I change my opinion because I have to satisfy the logical part of my brain.
That is step 1.
Okay.
Step 2 is to go in the core of what drives you. So every time when you make an action and you do an action, you question, why am I doing this? You really go to the essence of what drives you. For a lot of people, that is comfort. For some people, it's validation. It can be family. It can be fitting in. It can be God. So you really go and you question, why are you doing what you're doing? That's step 2.
Okay. My personal thing is I believe very much in personal happiness. That's the driving force for me, that I want my own personal life to feel satisfying, and I want to be happy and comfortable with myself.
Okay. Step 3 is to realize that what you currently value, right, which is your drive for happiness, for example, is providing you less safety than a logic would. So basically, let me give you another example. There is studies, and you can just look it up, like that people that chase happiness are overall less happy than people that don't chase it at all. Or, for example, when you're in a situation between two things you have to choose, and one gives you more happiness, but yet maybe like right now more happiness, but in the long run not so much happiness. Or maybe it goes at the cost of, your long-term happiness or whatever. Like you have to imagine moments and situations where this core drive has done more bad than good.
Okay, can you try to give me an example where my core drive of personal happiness and satisfaction will be inferior to the core drive of logic?
Let's say, for example, but I'm not going to give, this is not to you, this is just in general.
Sure, I understand. I'll try to keep it general, sure.
Okay, so like, let's say I really want happiness, and I go like, okay, I can choose between working out now, which will, allow me to be more healthy, or I can choose between just sitting and playing games. For example, you could still say like, yeah, but in the long run is, but I'm just giving a simple example. And then the person goes like, okay, no, I experience this duality. I rather just play games. This is one example. Or
okay, wait. Do you realize that this is a false dilemma, right? That you are presenting an either or that doesn't have. No, but it's a bad example. I could be personally seeking happiness, and as part of seeking happiness, I know that working towards being more healthy, having a higher longevity, being more physically capable are things that will make me happy. So I go and suffer at the gym, and then I come back and I'm happier as a result of that. Why can't happiness satisfy those drives?
I'm just saying, like, you just told me, give me an example. I just give you a general example. The reason why you know this is because you are older, have gone through more experience, and have been able to infuse logic more in order for happiness to work for you. But
what you're talking about isn't happiness. What you're talking about is some kind of crazy short-term gluttony.
What I'm just saying, like, what you're saying, this crazy short-term, ask your chat. Like, ask my viewers. There's a lot of people that know that working out is good. Still, yet they would just rather sit and play games. I mean, I'm just talking in general. In general, like when happiness is what drives you in order to do stuff, then you're basically, and this is going to sound really crazy, you're going against what you are, because happiness is a side effect. Happiness is a side effect of doing what is in line with what you are. The reason why you experience happiness is because of evolutionary biology. If it was more in line to us to survive, to experience like sadness and pain all the time, then that's what we would be doing instead. The reason why we experience this need for happiness is because we have evolved and it allowed us to survive even more. But it's only now with our understanding of like how the brain works and how the reward center works and such that we can restructure our beliefs and what we desire to be more in line with what we are. So for example, when it comes down to working out or anything else, when you say like, okay, like, I think this is logical to do, not because I want happiness, but because it's logical to do, you just do it. As a result, the entire society, not only do you feel as happy, if not more happy, because you stimulate the reward center, but on top of that, you also contribute and benefit so much more to the social organism that we are. And that is the thing, when you start thinking logically, and that is what drives you, instead of feeling good, you start seeing a lot of benefits, and on top of that, you're not even making any sacrifices, because the sacrifices that you think you do is because of your current paradigm. But if you realize that you experience the same dopamine release by just doing logical stuff, it completely, like, and that is
but again, you're trying to conflate these abstract feelings of happiness and release of dopamine is like a. Well, but that's not what I mean. When I say that my purpose in life is to seek happiness, if I'm just talking about dopamine release, then I would go and do drugs all the time. If I'm just talking about basic neurotransmitters, that's not what anybody's talking about when they're talking about happiness, right? The happiness that you're talking about, these very basic neurochemicals that go along with brain, like are not.
Then what you're talking about is just like resonance throughout all your neural networks, right?
I'm talking about a much deeper cognitive understanding of being satisfied with yourself, not releases of dopamine consistently every single day you wake up.
That's even easier for me to give an argument. If you truly want to have this fulfillment towards yourself, then the best thing to do is to have a craving that is in line with what you are. And the objective reality and logic is exactly what brought about what you are. You literally align yourself with the consistent patterns that bring about all your existence.
But what we are is so much different than what we are in society today. What we have evolved to be and what we are today in society are two entirely different things.
Everything is brought about by the objective reality. all you do, everything has a reason.
What do you
Everything.
What do you mean everything is a reason?
Like everything you do is because of chemicals in your brain and neurons firing.
Oh yeah,
everything.
sure.
Like all of that is a result of that.
But to
So
say that like we evolved to play video games or to sit in chairs for 12 hours a day, that's not necessarily true, but we do it anyway.
No.
And even people that
The
make good
reason why
contributions to society do it.
And that's exactly why this insight is so revolutionizing, because people will realize that and stop sitting on their ass 12 hours a day and playing video games and instead contribute to society. And that's why.
But why does your logic system give somebody the desire to contribute to society? What does that
because
drive?
It's more logical.
How is it logical?
Because you understand that evolving the superorganism is what brought us to what we are right now. You owe your existence to it.
I owe my existence to people who fought against themselves. We killed how many Native Americans? Or in the United States at least, with the Revolutionary War. And I'm sure whatever European country you're from had its own share of bloodshed and war in the past. Like, I mean, how does your system how does your core logic system give you the desire to help society? Like, what if...
Because you understand that the ID and the sense of self is... Identity and the sense of self is a flawed paradigm, and that what is around you and your environment is just as much part of the self than your own. It's just much part of your experience and what you are than
okay, so like this idea of having no sense of identity, I think, is more fundamental to your belief system than having logic as a core driving principle.
The thing is, though, like honestly, when people go through the 4 steps, it happens automatically, immediately, because you immediately realize, wait, the sense of identity makes absolutely no sense. It happens instantaneous.
I don't think so. I feel like
I guarantee you this happens, because I've had a lot of people that explained me exactly that. They said the moment I went through these 4 steps, I experienced identity death. And that's also what happens when people read The Power of Now. The difference with Power of Now, though, it doesn't replace your core value with logic. The Power of Now just helps you realize that identity doesn't exist, and creates a catharsis in that regards, because every emotional release has similar symptoms, but of course people are still left with what they value at that point. So it's really something that that is heavily described and you can read upon, and like the identity is literally also for a big part what is inhibiting you to fully grasp what I'm talking about.
Okay, help me discard my sense of self then. How would you go through that?
Just realize that it's flawed.
And by flawed, you mean because it's constantly changing, it can't ever exist?
Like, because you are what you are now, and that's it.
Yeah, but what's wrong with that being my identity and my sense of self? And I understand that this is different than I was a second ago or 20 seconds ago.
Your identity and sense of self gets a certain value and a certain level of self-image from your story and from the past, which is completely like being emotionally attached to that is completely redundant, because it's just information and knowledge that allows you to be more effective right now, and that's it. So you look at the past from a much more unbiased and objective way, and you're not emotionally attached to all whatsoever. You don't get any value out of it whatsoever. You just are. And that is what people speak in spirituality and in enlightenment. That's what they explain. It's literally very similar to identity death. You hold on anymore emotionally to a sense of story. You just let go, and you just accept what you are at any given moment, and you use your past in the most effective way to learn from, to practically put it in practice now. You're just not attached to it at all. Just as much as your ancestors and Einstein's equations or whatever are just information, your past is just information to you. No emotional attachments whatsoever.
I mean, I guess, but I mean, we kind of have all of these sensory drives and everything that feed into our brain that are very much tied into our own bodies. I have a hard time feeling like you could completely separate yourself from...
I'm telling you, like, what I'm talking about now is heavily described and explained on you can just read about it. Like, this is really like, this is not so controversial. This is not so revolutionary at all. What I'm talking about. This is just identity death. It's a lot of.
Do you have any desire to have children? Do you think, or do you not know yet? Are you still undecided?
I myself, I don't want children myself.
Are you pretty positive about that?
It's unlikely that I will have children.
Would you advocate for anybody that has made the decision, let's say they've clicked and they've decided that they definitely will never want children in their life, do you think that it would be prudent for them to castrate themselves so that they don't like masturbate or waste time on anything like that would be fruitless, that wouldn't really contribute?
The thing is though, like, I'm not sure whether or not having no children is the best thing to do. I don't know. Like,
okay, what if somebody decides that if they want children, they'll just adopt? Do you think that like doing something like that to prevent yourself from ever wanting to masturbate, because this is something that feeds only into a selfish drive, there's no benefit to society whatsoever, do you think that doing something like that, like for going under like castration, do you think this would be like advantageous?
The thing is, the problem with these kind of questions, and I will give a really, really accurate answer, is that it's not even so much about whether it's more or less productive. It's about how does it affect and how does it ripple. Imagine if you have a group of people starting to click and start to castrate themselves. Man, that will have a really good reputation. Like, everybody would just be scared as fuck. So like, it's not even about whether or not it's the objective best thing to do. You got to also look at the side effects and the ripple effects and the amount of how scary it can sound.
But now you're talking about selling your belief system and pushing irrational behavior as part of it in order to sell a hyper-rational belief system.
Well,
what if in order to put...
Obviously, yeah, I have no issues with that.
But that betrays the entire belief system. What if in order to sell your system, you found that the best way to do it was on vials of heroin or whatever? Would you encourage people to shoot up so that they could read, the daily proverb from whatever the dealers are passing out? Or what if like smoking or doing certain types of hard drugs spread in quicker communities?
The problem with this is it's all hypothetical questions, and as a result, the answers to them are, it can make the thing like... The better question I could ask is, okay, imagine if, because it's all about like you're going into the ethical road. Imagine if the entire world would blow up, right? And in order to a meteorite is falling, and in order to circumvent it, we need to send a rocket to change the course of the meteorite, and nobody on the planet wants to do it. Would you force someone to do it? It's really like when you think about it, and the thing is like then you can start giving another, like you can start making it more and more extreme to the extent where people are emotionally repulsed by the logical conclusion. But the problem is now what you're doing is you're speaking to the intersubjectivity in order to speak against the ID, while I'm taking advantage of the intersubjectivity for moving humanity forward as a superorganism in the most effective way.
If you recruit a bunch of people pushing and peddling ideas that betray your core ideology, how do you expect these people to embrace your core ideology?
There's no such a thing as betraying.
Well, you're pushing irrational behaviors because you think that it believes that more people buy into it because they're subjective.
It's logical to lie if the lie will do more good than bad. It's just logical to do.
But not when not when the system of logic that you're pushing says that you should never lie. That's the problem. The system that you're pushing of embracing...
That's why it's illogical to say you should never lie. It's just illogical to say that.
Okay, so what about in a perfect world where people aren't subjectively turned off? Would you say that things like, I'm only giving castration because masturbation is an easy thing that I can think of that doesn't really play any greater role in society?
It depends. If all the evidence and everything shows that this is much better for our evolution and everything, then and the entire planet has that, then that will automatically happen. And I would go even further. It is going to happen. We're going to merge with machines. And what you're going to have is, to give an answer to what you say, what if you can experience continuous orgasms all the time without having to masturbate, and on top of that you can also solve all the equations in the world and grow and evolve? Wouldn't you like more that, or would you rather have like your balls, keep your balls? Because that's what it is. It's like technology allows...
No. I'm not trying to extrapolate this into any crazy thing. When I ask you a hypothetical question, what I'm doing is I'm testing your core ideas for consistency.
It makes it sound... But the problem is like the reason why you're using this specific example is because it makes me sound crazy.
No, that's not why... No, that's not true. I will answer... Listen, I have a belief system and I will answer any crazy hypothetical you throw at it. And I've lived through some of these crazy hypotheticals hypotheticals, okay?
Yes,
I will do it because I feel strongly, and I will defend with logic and reason any personal idea that I have. Period.
Yes.
So if I give you an example and you say, well, my answer to this makes me sound crazy, that makes me think that you don't believe in your core belief system that you claim to believe in.
That's not true, because I didn't fully elaborate. To me, the reason why I have this conversation is not to be right or wrong, or to be ethically correct or not. The reason why I'm having this conversation is to inspire your viewers to look into this. And if I say something that would completely push them away, not because I'm objectively not giving the right answer, but because on an intersubjective level, I'm literally saying something that triggers them and they didn't think about it, then it goes against my agenda of even making the claim in the first place. Because the reason why I'm having this talk is so people look into this. So why would I start saying like, oh, let's castrate everyone if it makes everybody more productive? Because the hypothetical scenario you're talking about is not the one that I'm in right now. The situation I'm right now is a lot of people are watching, and they don't always have the ability to think in these theoretical in these theoretical hypothetical scenarios. No, they see these one-liners and they go onto threads and say, lol, Athene said to castrate so you don't masturbate because it's more logical. That is the one-liners that come out of this question, and that is why I'm saying this is a situation where if I look at it pragmatically, like it's not an answer I can fully honestly answer, because it goes against being able to spread it. And that is for me even more important. At the end of the day, what dictates what I do and what I say is the practical reality. If I can be right, but that means 10 kids die, or I can be wrong and these 10 kids don't die, like I'll be wrong any day. For me,
okay, but we're not talking about a matter of life or death or a matter of debate. I'm telling you now then, as a rational or hyper-rational or logical person, then I have to wonder if every single thing you've said today, I have to contend with the fact that it could be a lie used to recruit people. Because now you've told me that it's valid for you to lie to push your ideology.
But like then you should question yourself, like, okay, if that is the case, is it more logical or not? That's what you should ask. If it's more, is it more logical or not?
Is what more logical or not?
To lie if it means that it would have a bigger positive impact in the world. I mean, like,
not for me personally, as somebody that preaches logic and reason on my stream, I'd never lie when I try to get people to be more logical or rational. I would never do that. Why would you do that? It betrays what you're preaching.
No, it's because you have identity about it.
It's no, it's not. It's because
if you would be following, if you would be head advisor of Clinton, she would have lost for sure. I mean, like, it's about you have.
Wait, what? No, that's not true at all. What do you mean?
Like what I mean with that is, like, if you don't want to play the game dirty and you're just playing by the rules or whatever, and the world doesn't work like that, then the actions and the ripple effects and the side effects of your logical your logical actions have been approached from a very small bubble. You always have to zoom it out, and the way you zoom it out is by looking at how these what you say and what you do has an impact and a ripple effect on the entire society.
Okay, but the problem is
like, I'm gonna say something.
Okay.
Like, let me ask you a question. Let's say tomorrow, right? You have you found certain, what is it, like certain things about NSA, whatever, and if you talk about it, right, that it's going to kill people. It, but it's but someone talks to you about it and says, okay, what do you can you what is it that you have read there? Would you say that if it means not saying it would make you considered a liar? That's my question.
What is the question exactly?
So if you know that the consequences of saying the truth is going to cause harm to people, would you actual real harm, while if you lie it would prevent the harm? What would you do on the stream?
What am I lying about? Or what are we even talking about? Are we saving lives with this statement, or are we just
imagine, I'm just saying, I can clock up a real example if you want.
Yeah. Do one.
Okay. Imagine you have children, right?
Yeah, I have one.
Okay. So imagine your child has cracked a code, right? And they're like, you have the freaking NSA after him, for example, and you hide him, and they come and they question you, and they really force you to answer the question, and they tell you like you have the ability to lie, and by lying you actually make them not, give up on it. And what they figure out is like, oh, Destiny has a really strong ethical reason to not lie on the stream. Let's run the stream and ask him the question: would you lie, or would you not lie?
Here, because I wouldn't lie, but that's because we're talking about, or I'm sorry, here I would lie, but we're talking about matters of life or death right now.
Yeah, but that's the thing. Yeah, but I'm also talking about matters of life or death. You know that this click spreading,
but not directly. This is like secondary and tertiary life or death.
This is tremendous impact in the world. Like, every person that has clicked so far has stopped procrastinating and doing stuff that is useless and started to contribute to the world. The ripple effects and the change and the life changes being affected by it is immense. It's literally the difference between living in an utopia or living in the current world we're living now.
Okay, but first of all, that's not unique to your ideology, okay? And secondly, your particular...
It's not ideology. I'm basing myself on logic and the objective reality.
Okay, which is your ideology, right? Scientism or whatever. There are different types of logicality that are...
If you want to label it like that.
It is an ideology, yes. You are...
Yeah, I can agree on that.
Okay.
I just wanted to say...
So, but what I'm saying is, like, for me personally, okay, I don't think that lying or falsifying facts or anything like that are positive things to do, right? So when I'm talking to people, I'm not going to lie in order to convince them that I'm right about something. I think because it betrays exactly what I'm preaching. I would never do. So let's say that I think that, so for instance, I have some left-leaning tendencies or whatever, right? I would never tell people, hey, if you believe in this thing, like this will happen, or, this is definitely what's going to result from that, even if that would get more...
Good question.
Okay.
Are you pro-Trump or pro-Hillary?
If I had to pick one, it would be Hillary, but I don't like either of them. But
okay, but like imagine, like, hypothetical, right? Mm-hmm. Imagine if you could lie, right, about something about Hillary, and you know that your lie would decide the election. Would you lie and have Hillary elected, or would you tell the truth and have Trump elected?
No, if I could lie and have Hillary elected, no. Why would I want a politician elected on a lie?
So even though even though the consequences for the entire U.S. and the entire world with Trump would be relatively a lot worse, you would still rather just tell the truth.
Yeah, our system is built on democracy. Yeah, you have to. If I had the opportunity right now, if I had the opportunity... What?
But the thing is, did you read all the articles about how Trump might have been elected because of the fake Facebook news?
Yeah, sure. Listen, I've read every single thing. I followed this past election very, very closely, okay? But I'm telling you that we, as an American people, we in the United States of America believe in a democratic republic, and we elect our head of state via a democracy. So whatever the election says is what goes. That's how our government works.
You think that Trump being elected on the way he has been elected, and how Hillary even had more votes, like more than 1.5 million right now, and the way Trump got elected, you think that is all purely democratic and all nice and
yes,
true?
It's exactly democratic. It's one of the biggest shortfallings of democracy, but sure, it's democratic.
So in the same way, it's democratic for the Electoral College to still vote Hillary Clinton as president, because the founding fathers have had the Electoral College just to avoid Trump to be elected, which is part of the democratic process.
I don't think the Electoral College exists to avoid Trump getting elected. What do you mean by that?
Oh, like I read that. I read in an article that the founding fathers had the Electoral College in case someone gets elected that is completely a bad choice for America. I'm just saying...
Sure, kind of, but the way that our system works right now is our elected...
democratic, so it would be democratic now for people to choose Hillary in the Electoral College because
that's not how our system works, though, dog.
That's how your system works.
No,
I
it's
read an
not.
article about it.
All right, listen, the Electoral College, the electorates in the Electoral College are bound to vote for whoever
That's
their
not
state
true.
voted. Yes, it is
That's not
true.
That is not true. You can look it up. That is
I
not
know
true.
you.
They have-
I mean, you can be a faithless elector. You could vote against it, against the interests of your
Yes,
people.
you
But that's
have
not
the
this.
right to-
But that's not the system that we have right now.
Yes, it is. Like you can read up on it because
I know how
read, and
I
did a
know
lot
how
of
my
research.
government works. Listen,
Yeah,
right
I
now it's
also know how the
entirely
government
possible to assassinate Trump and Pence, and we don't want either of them as president. That doesn't make it the right thing to do. Yeah, I mean,
I'm
you
just-
could have faithless
no,
electors
like,
in our system
you're-
that could
you're
try to vote.
talking about-
What?
You're talking about the democratic process, and you say because it's part of the system, therefore it's democratic. So I'm just using something off your system to show where there is flaws in the system.
But that's not.
And
That's
then-
somebody bucking. A faithless elector is somebody that has bucked the system. That's not somebody that's
what?
worked. That's somebody that's somebody that has kicked the system. That isn't part of the system. Somebody that plays a faithless elector role. That's not how our system has been agreed to work. We all agree. All of us in the United States of America have agreed on the Electoral College. We have an Electoral College. We haven't abolished the Electoral
Yeah,
College,
but
and
you,
that's
but
what
you read up on why they have the electoral college.
Back a long time ago, the reason why we established the Electoral College is because they didn't believe, whoever was in charge of founding it didn't believe that the people of the United States were capable of making informed decisions about who would be president because
There
news
you
did
go,
not travel
and you
fast
could-
enough.
you could-
However,
you could
that's
make
not
the
what we
perfect-
live, but that's not how we live now. We still have the
But
Electoral College and we haven't
people-
abolished it.
If people get elected because of wrong Facebook news, then maybe the founding fathers had a good point.
Okay, but what you're talking about
I'm
means
just-
that we
what-
need.
what-
But what you're talking about is abolishing democracy, then, because electors can
No.
fall. Yes, because
Yes,
maybe
but-
then the
but that's the
electors
thing.
don't vote
I'm
for
just-
some. But maybe the
No,
electors
you
don't vote for somebody because they
You
think
don't
it's the best.
understand. You don't understand. The reason why I'm making this point is to show that your democratic process is flawed. And if you use the democratic flag to show like, hey, it's democratic, that's how the system works, to talk good, that you would have spoken the truth, I'm just pinpointing to flaws in your own
Listen,
democratic
I'm not.
system,
You're
because
trying
the
to make me
democratic system-
defend democracy. I can't defend democracy for you. I don't think it's a good system because I think people in general are
I'm not
fucking
trying you
stupid.
to
Okay?
defend
No.
democracy because
You are. I'm telling you how our
just
process.
Argued, you
I'm
just
defending the
argued
process. We all in the United States of
And I'm
America have
saying-
agreed on the process, and that's what you have to defend. Even if I don't like it, I'll defend the process as a whole. I'm not going to pick and choose
Yes,
parts that I
and
like or don't
therefore,
like.
I have the argument to say that the Electoral College could vote Clinton instead. Because that's what the founding fathers were envisioning. It's part of the system.
That's not
So
the
if you
point of the
don't-
The point of
But
the
the thing
Electoral
is-
College was to vote instead of a popular vote, not to vote differently from them. That was the point of the Electoral College, was that they would vote in place of the popular vote, not that they could change it if they didn't like how their state voted.
The reason why they had the Electoral College is because if the public was misinformed and didn't have the ability to choose a candidate that was best for America, they were allowed to change their vote. That is why the Electoral College got started. And that is why I have an argument to say you could make this really a good case for Trump. And I'm not even saying that they should do it. I'm not saying because it would cause more chaos than anything. Like, they can't do it, obviously. But I'm just showing that the democratic system that you're holding so high, the one that is being used in America, has holes. And it's not just that.
Well, no,
It's
that's not even
gerrymandering.
holes.
It's-
If what
it's-
you're saying
it's
is true,
gerrymandering.
if what you're saying is true, that electors, if we say that what you're saying is true, that electors are allowed to switch their vote and vote for whoever they want, then fine.
No.
Then that's part of the system anyway. Then I don't understand how that's a problem.
How do you mean? Say again?
If the Electoral College then decides that they do want to switch their vote or whatever, and that is the process, and I misunderstand the process, then that's fine anyway. Then that's part of the system that we live under. I don't understand what the problem is.
Yeah, but then now suddenly your argument saying like, oh, I base myself on democracy and democracy is doing its job, right?
My
You're
argument is
just
basing itself on the process that we have to elect a leader.
Yeah, and I'm just pinpointing the flaws in the process. There's a lot of flaws in the democratic
Okay, so you're
process
trying to
of
make me
the US.
defend the process. I can't defend the process itself.
saying
I
if you're
can
in a
defend the fact that we
position-
live under a process.
What I'm just saying, if you're in a position to tell the truth or a lie, and telling the lie would bring about, would course correct a flaw that is caused by the current process, you'd still use the democratic higher moral ground in order to justify justify for yourself to say the truth instead. And I'm saying that is not the right decision because it's not a pragmatic one. And you always have to think pragmatically, because when you think about
but your
systems and
pragmatic
you think about elections,
no, because your
you have to
pragmatic
think
view, because your pragmatic view is very, very, very naive. Because your
But
pragmatic,
that is how Trump got elected.
Okay, but listen,
You
your
have to
pragmatic
understand-
your pragmatic view relies on the fact that you are the divine person of truth, that the sole diviner of truth. Because what you're talking about is going above and beyond what any established system means and circumventing and then subverting that entire system to give an outcome that you
I will
personally have deemed
always-
favorable.
I will give my own logical, critical thinking always number one priority above any authority on the planet. And when there is an expert or a scientist that has more knowledge, then I will give that person from my own critical thinking more authority. And that is exactly why I do what I do and I believe in what I do. There is not one authority on the planet that I would just accept without critical thinking. And that is why I just found, like, what I fall back on is logic and the objective reality. So if a politician or a fucking scientist or whatever comes and claims the most weird stuff, I will use my own critical thinking to define whether I value this right or like accurate or less accurate. And that is how I go about life. And that's how everybody should go about life. They should think critically for themselves and not just go like, oh, there is a system, there is all this authority. You have, like, it's not that I have the full absolute
But that's what
truth.
it means to live in a society with other thinking, rational human or even irrational human beings. When you live in a society, sometimes you have to give up a little bit of your own personal power to other people in order to make the system work. Because if every other person operated under
practical wise.
Yes, but so because of but you're the one that said pragmatically, and I'm telling you that that's a naive view of pragmatism. Because if every single person operated under that assumption, there would be people taking to the streets right now with AK-47s trying to kill Trump.
You're speaking about two different things. In one thing, you're talking about pragmatism in terms of like how, like when I speak about pragmatism, I talk about the ability to look at the reality for what it is and understand that sometimes you have to do things that are not absolutely in line with your morals or whatever for the better good. But I would even define that doing what is for the better good is what the real true higher moral ground is. It's
Okay,
very
but you're
easy to sit on
this
the
is
sideline
no.
and preach and say like, oh yeah, I'm always correct in logic and I'm never gonna lie. And then like when I give you really concrete examples, but what if it goes at the cost of lives and stuff? Then suddenly you change the story. But that's exactly what I'm saying. When
No, first of all, hold on. First of all, I have never changed my story. Okay, firstly, I have been completely consistent with this entire argument. Okay, secondly, the problem with
so
what
you would lie if it means you save lives.
Yeah, to save lives? Yes, if you're talking about a matter of life or death, directly, yes. But not like, well, I would lie to push an ideology that has the potential to maybe save lives in the future that could be saved in other ways.
Indirectly, indirectly, no? Is that your argument?
What? Yeah, if it's indirectly in a really roundabout way, no. Like,
no, not roundabout way, just indirectly. It means like
if somebody came into my house and they said, are there any Jews hiding in the basement? If there are, I'm going to kill them. I would be like, no, even if there were 5 Jews in my basement, I would lie to them, okay? Now, if somebody said, hey, I want $5 as a donation from you to the Make-A-Wish Foundation because there's a chance that this toy will wind up in little Timmy's bed and he'll be so excited that the cancer will go away and maybe he'll survive. Like, no, those are two totally different things. A direct...
You know what I like?
What?
Like the way you argument, you're giving two polarized examples that make you sound like polarizing.
No, because we have to polarize the examples to make sure the examples are...
The reality is that it's not that polarized at all. The reality is always more in the middle, and being pragmatic in your indirect actions and understanding how they have effect on the world is as important for the world, for everybody to take into account as the examples you're bringing about now. Because it's exactly because people sitting in the sideline and just saying like,
AEUROBRO seriously trying to teach you about American politics?
Currently, it is by constantly, actively making pragmatic decisions and actually be on the field and taking action, even if sometimes you have to choose between the lesser of two evils, is always the true higher moral ground than the one where you go about things and try to be absolutely true or not true. And what you told me on the stream earlier, because you said you wouldn't change your story, you asked me, give me an example of, do you change the story? You said you wouldn't lie
on the stream. You told me that earlier. People can actually watch the VOD. You said it. So now you gave an example where you would lie. So let's say
I wouldn't lie when I'm talking to people about my ideology, not about if I was trying to save a human life.
Now you're changing the story, because let's say you're streaming and you have these Jews in your basement, and a Nazi SS commander is asking you on the stream, do you have Jews in your basement? If you say you don't know, they will come. If you say I don't answer, you don't. They would come. But if you say no, they wouldn't come. Then you would lie on the stream. So you're contradicting yourself.
That's not true. When we talked earlier about lying, we were talking very specific. We can watch the VODs. I was talking. We can go clip where I said it. I was very specifically talking about, in regards to pushing my ideology, I believe the exact examples I were giving, I was saying that I consider myself to be a very logical, very rational person, and I preach to other people that they should be logical and rational, and I would never lie to push my ideology. I would never say I would never lie. That position is untenable, obviously.
Yeah, but you did say you would never lie, and then I said you would lie in a pragmatic situation. Then you asked me for an example. And that's when we started.
And then your example was superseding the will of the people in a democratic election because I'm some kind of diviner.
But now I have an example about the Jews. Would you lie?
But we already answered this earlier. I said that if it came down to saving a human life, I probably would.
So
and then you said
on the stream.
Yes, but then you said, and then your counterexample to that was, well, my ideology saves people's lives. And I said that that's an indirect, roundabout way. It's a totally different kind of thing.
Like imagine, let's say ideology, right? Let's imagine you have the same question where you have people, instead of asking about Jews in the basement, they ask about two different ideologies, right? One is Nazism, right? That would result in, you know what it results, and the other one is democracy. And if you lie, they would choose for democracy. If you tell the truth, they choose for Nazism.
What situation could I ever be in where I would tell the truth that would lead them to becoming Nazis?
If like the thing is though, like what you have to understand is it's an hypothetical question, because you can't think in absolutes. You can't tell me, because of ideologies, I would never lie because of ideologies, because there are settings where you would lie about ideologies. It's just this specific scenario where
how do you not experience duality if you're uncomfortable with answering questions about hypotheticals to test the merits of your ideology? I don't understand that. You're telling me that I can't give any questions because they're too absolute, or because you can't deliver an answer without it being only a hypothetical?
I can deliver an answer all the time, but I always take into account the consequences of what I say to the people that are watching the stream. All the time. I always balance it. If people are ignorant, I'm not going to be, giving like certain directions that could cause a lot of damage. Like water fasting, for example, is something very healthy, but I'm not going to go and preach it on the stream, because if people do it ignorantly, it could damage their health. And it's like if someone asks me, is water fasting healthy? And the only thing that I can answer is either yes or no. And if I answer yes, I know it would kill people, because some people would go about it ignorant. But if I say no, people wouldn't do it at all, then I would say no, even though I know that water fasting is healthy. So I always...
Wait, how is water fasting? You mean just drinking water only?
Like water fasting is drinking water only for a certain amount of time.
How much
and if
time?
You do it, well, you can do it for 3-7 days. It depends, but it's extremely healthy.
Why? How is it extremely healthy?
Because there is been studies around it. Ask your doctor; he will tell you. Like water fasting is something very healthy if you do it properly. But you have to do it properly. You have to first eat just vegetables and fruit, and then you have to drink water for a few days, and then drink water for a few days, and then start eating. Like it helps you. It's just a healthy thing to do. But either way,
how would you? I don't like the example because you're talking about something that's probably not true. Well, I don't understand. What if you were anybody that worked out or maintained any kind of like regimen of exercise? How would you fast water for 5 days? You would kill yourself.
No, that's not true.
Wait, how do you work out while fasting on water?
No, when you water fast, you rest a lot. That's what you do.
So your body invents proteins to rebuild muscle fibers?
No, it starts using currently your own fat. It's when it starts eating on your muscles.
It converts fat to protein?
Say again?
What part of the Krebs cycle are you in that converts fats in your body to protein to rebuild muscles?
Well, I'm just saying the moment that it starts atrophying your muscles, it becomes unhealthy. But for the first, I'm not such an expert in it, by the way. But like,
okay, but the problem is this is the example that you gave. If somebody were to ask me, is fasting healthy? I know that if you fast like an idiot, it could be unhealthy, but I would say, yeah, sure, fasting can be healthy. If I could only say yes or no, I'd say yes, fasting can be healthy.
But if you know that saying yes would cause people to go about it in an irresponsible way and could kill them, would you then say yes?
If there was an article posted and the article said, Destiny said yes to fasting, and then some people killed themselves as a result of that yes, I would not feel responsibility for the deaths of those people. So I have no problem saying yes, fasting is healthy.
Are you for real?
Yeah, of course. Sure, yeah, of course. I don't have responsibility for their deaths.
But that's the thing. Like, if you know that saying yes would cause these people to die, even if it's because of their own ignorance, then I would consider myself responsible because I always look at the ripple effects of my actions independently of a moral compass. I just look at reality to define what works and what doesn't. I don't look at my own little ideology or identity to define that, because what you're saying there is actually really dangerous.
How is it really dangerous? There's always going to be a slim minority. There's always going to be a minority of people that will identify.
Like I'm just saying, if you know saying yes causes death and saying no wouldn't, and you say like it's their own ignorance, that is really like that is just a dangerous way of thinking, because you literally use your own moral compass and identity as a higher moral ground than reality, and that's really dangerous.
Okay, what about on the flip side then, where somebody says is fasting healthy, and I go no, it's not, and then a bunch of people kill themselves because they overeat? Well, am I responsible for their deaths?
No, because like the thing is.
Wait, I'm not responsible for their deaths, even though I said fasting wasn't healthy.
When I say no, I'm not meaning no to your question.
Okay, well, wait, answer my question before we go off into 50 million other things. If I say no, fasting is not healthy because I don't want people to fast and kill themselves. If I say no and then they overeat and kill themselves, is that my responsibility then?
It all depends on the knowledge and the information you have before making the statement. If you have the knowledge that it would kill people to say yes, and it wouldn't kill people if you say no, then it would be wrong to say, well, it wouldn't be good to say yes. If, on the other hand, you would have the knowledge, it's about having the knowledge. If you don't have the knowledge, then of course you're not responsible. But if you do have the knowledge, then you are. So it depends if you have the information or not.
Okay, then I guess it's just hard to understand the example, because I can't possibly think of a scenario where I would have foreknowledge of how many people will die if they read a one-line response of me saying yes to the question, fasting is healthy.
Actually, you would be able to statistically calculate that, which sounds really crazy, but you are, by seeing the amount of people that actually die water fasting, because they go about it.
Well, no, I would never say yes to water fasting. I was just talking to normal fasting.
Well, I'm just saying, like, you could just look at the full sample of people that, benefited from fasting and the amount of deaths. But water fasting, like, it's just one simple example, of course, but you could statistically with data measure these with standard.
But pragmatically and realistically, you could never do this. Like, in a perfect world where we could measure every single variable, sure, but realistically,
but that is why I'm talking about standard deviation. You can't.
Okay, but even with standard deviations, there's no way. Like, if I say fasting is healthy, now I can guarantee that 4 to 5 people will probably kill themselves with a confidence interval of p is less than 0.05 or whatever within the next 2 months.
If you have the data, you can make these claims.
But it's not realistic to have that kind of data available to you on a whim for every single kind of question like that could come up pragmatically.
Saying, like, we're talking here about the situation where you would have that information. So it's not on a whim.
Okay.
So like it's like you're always trying, when I say these things, putting them into a different context.
No, I'm trying to go by completely realistic examples.
Because
this is the
beauty of science. You can use statistics.
No, that's not the beauty. Listen, this is what you do. Okay, you give me a certain belief system. Okay, and you say that happiness is not a good fundamental core value, or comfort is not a good fundamental core value. So to test that, I ask you about castration. Okay, and that is an extreme example, but it works very well because it shows giving up something that is completely irrational doesn't matter at all. If you don't believe in comfort, then giving up something like masturbation or the ability to have children or the calories that your body spends maintaining those testicles, it's totally worthless. There's no problem there castrating yourself. It doesn't matter. And giving up the masturbation gives you so much more time to do other things in your day. You don't have a sex drive to distract you, right? Hold on. So what I'm saying is that example is very good, and it works to illustrate how much you buy into your point. Now, when you give me the example, if you could only give a one-word reply, yes or no, to whether or not fasting is good, and if you say no, some people, like, do you see see how much crazier you have to get for your example to try to get to some realm where it looks like I'm being inconsistent with my beliefs?
Well, I'm just saying, I'm just being consistent with what I say, in contrary to you when you say you wouldn't lie on the stream.
I never said I wouldn't lie ever. I think there are times.
Well, you said that. That's why we
No,
started.
no, that's not true. I said that I wouldn't lie to push my ideology. I said that I wouldn't tell lies to push my ideology. Okay, then I misspoke. Then I admit that. Okay, then I admit that I was absolutely incorrect in saying that. I don't know how. I don't think any single person on my stream thought that I said that, because if somebody walked up to me and asked me a question where if I said yes, they would kill my son, and I said no, they would walk away, I would always say no, right? But when we're talking about like a matter of life or death, that's a very easy thing.
That is what caused the entire avalanche.
No, that's not what caused it. No, that's not what caused it. What caused it was me asking how you can promote an ideology that champions logic and reason as its core fundamental tenets, but then shovel that ideology using irrational, illogical things.
But you just told yourself now that it's not always irrational to lie. You just told it yourself.
I said it's not irrational to lie to save a life.
Yes, there you go. And that is exactly the point I was making earlier as well.
But your ideology isn't saving lives. It's just pushing an ideology.
Now you're changing the subject, because the definition was whether lying pragmatically would be a good thing or a bad thing. And you said, look, I would never lie on the stream. And that's
when we were talking about lying pragmatically, you were talking about lying in a democracy. You were talking about superseding a system to inject your own personal...
Before that, you were talking about lying because I didn't want to answer the question about castration, and you used that as a higher moral ground to say, but then you would lie and it would be irrational. I said, like, lying is not always irrational. Actually, lying is logical. You said, no, I never lie on the stream. And then...
Not to push an ideology.
But the thing is, now you say it's because of pushing an ideology. Now you're giving it another narrative, because that was not what we were talking about. So now I can start arguing about that, because I can give a lot of...
Okay, let's argue about that then. I'm sorry if I led you to believe that I would tell the truth if it resulted in the direct death of people, okay? I would not, I would tell a lie, so I'm sorry.
Don't count.
Depending on the situation, no. I mean, like, if you're talking about like a one-line response to a fasting question...
Saying, I'm just talking in general. If you know you would be responsible indirectly for the death of people, you would...
Would I lie? Usually not, because I personally, I like human life and I champion human life. So most of the things that I say are going to be things that are promoting that, because that's very important to me. And that lines up with, I don't, like, what, can you give me an example where I would tell a lie to get rid of an idea or whatever that would ultimately benefit human life? Like, what...
But do you understand that you're putting me into the same situation as earlier? But earlier you were asking just a lie, and now you're asking a lie that would indirectly...
I don't think I ever said that. Somebody has to give me a Twitch clip, man, of me saying this, because I don't think I would ever make the statement. And if I did make that statement, you should be reasonable enough as a human to know to understand what I'm talking about.
That's exactly why I was debating it, because I thought it was unreasonable. That's why I've been debating it for the past, half hour? It's because I knew it was unreasonable.
Then why was your first example of me lying turning the election instead of somebody dying directly?
What I also think is unreasonable is that you are asking me a very concrete example, because you do understand the thought experiment.
Which thought experiment?
Well, you do understand what I'm trying to do is the idea. If you have the knowledge that telling a lie, right?
Yeah.
Or telling a lie would indirectly result in not people dying, and if you tell the truth, it would indirectly result in people dying, then you should also lie.
Yeah, so depending on this, yeah, but we're never talking. We've never been talking about matters of life or death, though.
But the thing is, though, like now, the argument you can start making is the following: does logic as a core value bring about indirect saving lives? That's the argument, right? And I can perfectly argue for that, because that's exactly what has happened throughout the past 600 years. The reason why we are 7.5 billion people is because of technology, our understanding in the objective reality.
Yeah, but a lot of that technology came from people that have religion and comfort and all these other things as their core ideological tenets.
And yes, indeed, because people still can think reasonable, even if their core value is something different. They still have the cognitive capacities to think reasonable. But if your core value is logic instead, you will be able to be even more efficient and more in line with the objective reality.
You don't have any proof for that, though. How could you make that claim?
Look at me. Look at me.
Firstly, that's anecdotal.
But I'm just saying, like it's not just anecdotal.
It is anecdotal. It's the definition of anecdotal.
When it comes down to impact to the world, I'm one of the biggest impactful gamers. in the world when it comes down to purely impact. I've literally reached 2.3 million children, and with very effective programs that have been researched and everything. So I'm just saying, like,
okay, but what is your nationality? What is your ethnicity?
I'm half Belgium, half Moroccan.
Okay, so you could make that same argument and say that half Belgium and half Moroccan people just have the capability of doing better for the world than anyone else naturally.
No,
and I would go, and I would say, how is that true? And you would go, look at me. That's why anecdotes don't work. Yeah, because an anecdote can one-off prove any example that you want.
But the thing is, though, like, if you can say, like, let's say half Moroccan and half Belgium, let's take your example, right? And then I can say, like, because of half Belgium and half Moroccan, I have these DNA strings. And when you look at it in the science lab, you see that, you know, these traits strengthen this and that. I can actually provide evidence, right? Provide, not evidence, but provide, you know, like additional information that pinpoints that it's not anecdotal. Like, if I start talking about you and I say why I did what I did and how I went about it all logically, then it pinpoints more to, you know, like the logic as a core value than just an anecdotal, just randomness. And that's the difference. Same with my success in poker. The reason why I've been successful in poker is because I'm really, like, I use logic as a core value. If I would be playing poker, I wouldn't be able, like, from comfort, I wouldn't be able to break the world record of most hands played in a month. I wouldn't not be capable of doing that.
Okay, how many of the WSOP bracelet world, how many WSOP bracelet holders do you think have logic as a core value, though? Like, there are people that have made tons of accomplishments. Like, you're just giving me your own personal achievements.
I understand that, but like, when you say that, that means that you haven't played poker or you don't understand poker, but like
I understand poker a great deal.
Then you can't give tournament wins as an example because you do.
You're giving hands played. You barely broke even using the PokerStars rakeback, dog. I know your poker history. Like,
but the thing is, though, like, what you have to understand.
Well, hold on, no, because you are not in a position to discredit somebody that's a WSOP bracelet holder. Okay, that's incredibly insulting. I understand that a one-off tournament win might not be.
Of course I can. Because if you win the lottery ones, that doesn't mean you're a successful person. Not at all. You can play tournament and win even if you don't have a clue about poker. That's the part of the RNG game. But if you can win poker after playing 1 million or 10 million hands on high stakes, I would have a lot more respect. Not respect for a random guy winning, like I'm not talking about you, but just in general. If someone just wins a poker tournament, it doesn't mean he's good at poker. Might be he's very lucky. But someone that can have a consistent win rate over a big sample, that is different. And that is where logic can be applied to understand how the person beats the odds because he's going statistically, while someone that is just going with his own gut feeling would play the World Series and still win. That's the difference between anecdotal, which is the guy that you're talking about that won the World Series, or someone that is consistent winner on a big
Okay, but even the difference, first of all, even the difference, you're still using one anecdotal example. You're trying to put a causal link between your core faith of whatever versus...
Because I'm giving a lot of examples in my life. Of course, you can still argue, and then that's what I also said.
You understand that, like, nothing in psychology is built on single case studies, right? You know that, right? Like,
I fully agree, and that is why I also said all the way in the start and also in the middle, next year I will be either in a weaker position or in a stronger position to make this case. I said that from the get-go. I'm not here coming and claiming the world and the miracle. I'm saying let academics do peer review independently, and we shall see. They will, like that is what I do. I'm not here. I'm just saying, like, when you're giving an example like, oh, this is out of the world, I just say there is actually, you know, things that point towards it. That's all I'm saying. But when you want to then start thinking about, like, you know, how it scales up, then I'm going to say, like, okay, let's see how that works out. I can just see that there's people that came over here, or even people at home, that once they clicked, stopped smoking, stopped playing games, starting to, you know, work out, starting to really take their life back together.
And I can find people that join the YMCA and do the same thing.
Yes, but the thing is, like, what I'm just trying to say is that is why that reality, the objective reality, will see whether or not this is accurate or less accurate with more data. I agree with that.
Which journals have you submitted the documentary to?
The documentary is going to come online either tomorrow or the next day, Wednesday, and we will send it to many journalists and to scientists because it's a very interesting phenomenon. And the thing is, like, you like the most important, I think, part in the entire conversation is when you started to understand that it's an emotional thing. Because if you truly go in, because then we started
Well, no, I
talking
understand
about
it,
step two.
but the problem is that you still
I'm
have
just saying
emotion as an underlying thing. Like, you haven't
logic will
replaced
make-
emotion at all.
Logic will be able to provide you even with a better feeling than what you already submit yourself to, if that is something that you value the most, is about feeling good or happiness. It will give you even more happiness. And also, like, that's basically step two. Step three is to realize, I was actually at step three, is to realize that, you know, logic will just provide a better paradigm, and you replace it, and then what happens is a paradigm shift automatically, and that's where that's the click basically, where you replace, you know, your core value with logic, because your inner child pushes away comfort or whatever and embraces logic instead. That's the third step. And the fourth step is constantly doing logical stuff while you are taking care of the remnants of your flawed belief system step by step by using logic as your guidance. And the longer you do that, the stronger your faith in logic, and that's how you keep it basically. That's are the four steps. And I can tell you right now that I think the best thing in order for this to see whether this is true or not, right, is first of all to read some testimonies and see whether they're bonkers or not, and then have independent scientists look into it, because this is a debate that could literally last forever, because you just question whether what I'm saying is, you know, legitimate. And I can give all these cases that is really like I've never seen in my own experience. I've talked to people for so long, my entire life, and I've never seen such a change, a drastic change. And that's same what people that convert to religion go through. But the reason why they experience much more duality afterwards is because their belief system is not in line with reality, and that's why this one is so much more promising, because it is. And the thing is that, like, in order, if this really actually will ripple and actually will work, let time see what it does. You know, like let time decide it, and we can have another talk next year, and I'll have more data, and you'll have more data, and we would be both in a much better position to debate this, rather than, you know, like because we'd have something to use as a reference. Even though right now I have reference of more than 50 people, you can still say like, oh yeah, this is similar, and like there is nothing more productive or more efficient that came out of it. And I will say, like, in next year I will have the data to provide whether or not it actually does make people a lot more productive and efficient and saving lives and helping other people. Like, I might have a lot of people that wanted to commit suicide, and because of the click, they didn't commit suicide at all, and they wouldn't be able to submit to God, but something like logic, they could find themselves into it because they see that it is more accurate. So like I wouldn't be surprised. Maybe in a year I'll be able to say, like, oh, look, these 20 people would have committed suicide. That's what they claim. Like, I'm just saying, like, right now I don't have as much data because I've only been talking about it for a month, and the documentary is only coming out tomorrow or the next day. So that's why I'm not in a position to make these claims. And I understand you. I fully agree with you that for now I'm not in a position to say whether this is true or not, or this is accurate or not, and that is why I'm reaching out to the scientific community to do some peer review.
I mean, like, that statement was reasonable, but I don't understand how a logical person could say that I'm not in a position to claim that my belief system is good, and then make a YouTube video claiming that it will be the most influential thing that has ever happened in the course of all of humanity. Because
the difference is that when I talk to you, right, that you don't have all the data that I have. Like,
when your data is 50 anecdotal stories.
Yes,
right?
Because you label them as anecdotal.
Well, because they are anecdotal.
Like, I don't see them so much as anecdotal, because I've gone through the experience that it's very hard to change people. I've been trying to do this for my entire life. And if I suddenly tap into something where I see people go through transformation in less than 10 minutes, that is really something that I go like, whoa, what is going on? Like, I'm not just some crazy, loony, delusional guy that thinks like, oh, this is like, I think statistically, if people will see that this starts working, it will start rippling. The question is, how long will it take? Because I know it will start rippling, because it's in line with reality, unless everybody here is bullshitting me. And I'm being trolled by all the people here, and all the people that are sending these messages, they're all just fooling me. But I think that's very unlikely. But if that is the case, then yeah, I'm just I'm being trolled. Like I'm being trolled in a level I've never managed is possible. So yeah, but that is also a possibility. But I deem it very unlikely, and that's why I can make this video, because I think it's very unlikely that this is not going to do. It's going to change the world, the way people think, just as much as religion changed the way people thought. Like it also started with one guy. I mean, like you have to understand that at the end of the day, it is the extent to which it works will define the extent to which it ripples. And religion worked, and that's why it rippled. And this works, and that's why this will ripple. So like I just know it works because I'm myself, and for myself, I know that that's what caused all what I did. And sometimes even you are really like wondering how I achieve these things or how I raise so much money. And it's real. I know you can still question it, but I know it's real. And the reason why I do these things and I achieve these things is because of logic, because that is what drives me. I don't need discipline or motivation, nothing. I just do what I think is most logical, and that's it. So yeah.
Gotcha. Can we listen to this real fast? Because a lot of people are linking me this. I don't know. Just to see exactly what I said before, because I'm curious. I want to hear it. All right, I'm listening to this. I linked it in TeamSpeak. Do you see it?
Yeah. Should ask if it's more. Is it more logical or not?
Is what more logical or not?
To lie if it means that it would have a bigger positive impact in the world. I mean, like
not for me personally, as somebody that preaches logic and reason on my stream, I'd never lie when I try to get people to be more logical or rational. I would never do that. Why would you do that if it shows what you're preaching?
No, it's because you have.
Okay, I feel like in listening to that, I don't feel like I said that I would never ever lie about anything ever. I'm pretty sure I was talking very specifically in regards to that ideology, right?
But you didn't make it clear to me, though.
Okay. Maybe that was my... I mean, I think I was pretty clear, but... All right. Well, I think we've covered all the bases. I appreciate the conversation.
Yeah, like I would say, like, think about the emotional, like the third step and the second step. Like, honestly... Think about it. Just think about it. Like, even if you don't believe it, just reflect on it and wonder. Like, just think critically about it. And just be aware. There's one thing I want to give, a really good tip. Just be aware that your reason is a slave of your emotional core and not the other way around. So your inner child uses your reason to justify itself.
Yeah, but yours does as well. You acknowledge that, right?
Yes, but mine is logic.
No, it's not. You said that you do logic because it gives you pleasure center rewards. That's being a slave still to your brain's emotional bullshit.
Yeah, but the thing is, though, like, what is it that drives me and triggers these emotions is doing logical things.
But why does the logical thing drive you and trigger you? Because it gives pleasure to your reward center. That's what your entire thing is based around.
Say again?
Your entire ideology, the reason why you connect it to neuroscience is because that logic increases your dopamine production or whatever, and it gives you pleasure in the reward centers. Yes, so you're just as much a slave to that part of your brain as any hedonistic, drug-seeking, pleasure-seeking person.
But if you're a slave of logic stimulating that part of the brain rather than hedonistic, you will just be a lot more in line with the objective reality. That's all I'm saying. Because you could have a person that just sits meditating in a monastery because it feels that, it feels good doing so. And then you have someone with logic that is building rockets to colonize Mars and the moon. It's the difference between evolving. Like, the difference between hedonistic and logic is if you're hedonistic, you don't evolve as much as you evolve when you have logic as your core value.
But somebody could have logic and that could click and they could think that everything is worthless and they don't have a sense of identity and they just kill themselves because they don't really care anymore.
That would only be the case if they don't understand but that's actually not true, because the reason why people feel depressed is because they can't.
No, it's not a matter of depression. I'm just saying you recognize that a sense of self doesn't really matter and you don't really feel like you're contributing much, so you just kill yourself. So you're not a strain on the system because you become one with the.
That is the thing. That is exactly why back in the days logic wouldn't have been able to provide this paradigm, because we didn't have insight in evolutionary biology and in neuroscience, which gives you a moral compass and purpose and meaning, because you realize that what you are is the product of evolution and evolving as a superorganism, and that's what we're designed to do. That's literally what the definition is of purpose. So then you just start, working in that regards as much as possible, and you evolve as a superorganism. So like you won't feel depressed at all or kill yourself. The opposite is actually true.
You don't have to be depressed to kill yourself. A lot of people that are suicidal on the verge of killing themselves aren't depressed at all. They've actually accepted it. They can sometimes have like a very eerie, cool approach to everything, and they're not really troubled at all, and they just kind of accept what's going to happen.
But the reason why people kill themselves out of depression, I'm talking here about people, because you have two types. You have people that are depressed because of a belief system. You have people that are depressed because there's literally a dysfunction in their brain. So the people that are depressed because of a belief system, they literally get almost instantly cured when logic is their core value. And that is based on the people that have talked to me. There's several people that were depressed, clicked, and depression was completely gone. And they just also realized that, being depressed just absolutely makes no sense. And it's just like, that's why it's going to be very interesting for the psychology and the scientific world, because they would see this as actually a cure for depression. And it is already, in a sense, there is already certain things like that are used as.
Wait, how do you think it's a cure for depression?
Like for depression as a result of your belief system. Because
okay, but psychologists aren't concerned with curing a depression as a result of your belief system. That's not what clinical depression is, and that's not what depression is medicated for.
Well, like you have a lot of depending on from case to case, like this guy with this borderline disorder went to a psychologist and he was getting treatment for years and pills. And now it's completely gone. So like a psychologist will definitely look into what is actually working here. Same with the placebo effect. Placebo effect is something that has been researched quite a bit because it's an interesting phenomena. If someone that has issues suddenly doesn't have these issues, it will be interesting to understand why that is. That's why the scientific community will be interesting in this. And there is already quite a lot of cases that make it interesting. And if the documentary goes live and it starts spreading even more, and we start contacting these people, and we even show even more proof with people that have these disorders, and afterwards the psychologists say yeah, it's gone. They don't have anxiety obviously anymore. I don't know. We need to look into it. And that is what's going to create a wave of research and peer review. And that's why next year I will be in a much better position to give you more examples than I do now, because we didn't even bring out the documentary.
Gotcha. So, yeah. All right. Well, I guess we have to wait for that to come out, and then we'll go from there.
Okay, that's good.
All right, well, I appreciate the conversation.
Nice talk. Keep it up, and we'll definitely stay in touch.
Yeah, good luck, dude.
Bye.
Holy fuck me, dude. If you clicked, you wouldn't have thrown away all that chicken you made on stream last year, you fucking piece of shit. Oh, man. I understand what he's saying. So here's essentially the summation of his thoughts, okay? So, as a human, something drives you. You have some core principle that drives you, and it's probably comfort or safety. So all of your decisions, your beliefs, your ideas, everything stems from that, okay? Well, what he wants to do is replace that comfort with logic. Now, who the fuck knows what logic is? Because we never got a definition, and we never will get a definition, okay? But whatever, logic is what we replace our thing with. However, the only reason why we use logic is because it makes us feel good. So we replaced our feelings with logic because of our feelings, is how this works. So let me show you an example, okay? So this is your brain on memes, and you have some kind of underlying principle. Okay? Comfort. Hold on. Let's listen to this.
Your logic is flawed, mine is perfect. Only I can see the logical way things are the way they are. See, logically I should kill myself because of how retarded that entire conversation was. Good lord. Bonus meme teehee.
So what Athene is saying is that you need to replace comfort with logic. But the comfort is actually still down here. But for some reason, it's different. This is the entire belief system. I don't understand. So this is your upper brain, where you are an idiot that just uses comfort. And this is your brain on logic. However, you're only logical because it gives you comfort, greater comfort. So what was his answer to cutting his balls off? I thought it was a fine example. If I really believed that, I mean, I would have no trouble defending that example. I don't know. If I thought that masturbating was a waste of fucking time and you should never do it, I don't see a problem with that. You save time. Like, seems like a no-brainer to me. But he was very when people get uncomfortable answering hypotheticals that test their personal beliefs in an extreme manner, it makes me feel like they don't have consistent beliefs, or they don't have confidence in their beliefs, right? Destiny, he means that you feel comfort when doing logic. Yeah, but what's the alternative then? You feel comfort when doing comfort? The fuck does that even mean? What is good about cutting off your balls? It has very negative effects on your body. Google it, man. Also, fapping is good for your prostate. I'm pretty sure there are better ways to be good to your prostate. And I think if fapping helped your prostate, I don't think anybody would have prostate problems ever. Firstly, I have heard that masturbation can help your prostate. I don't know if there have been any causal links established. However, I think you can cut your balls off and be fine, right? Eunuchs and shit did it all the time. He said that saying castration would be illogical. The problem is that he said that advocating for castration would be illogical because he's trying to get as many people to buy into his program as possible. He doesn't want them to be scared away. So what he's saying is that lying is acceptable under his system to push his ideology because he feels it's superior. The reason why I said I would never lie to push an ideology is because I feel like you're playing God at that point, and I don't have the confidence in myself to do that, or the arrogance or the lack of hubris or whatever to do that, right? So if somebody says, I will lie and manipulate people to unilaterally push my belief system on you, what they're saying is they are a superior human being that has made some kind of judgment, right? Rather than talking to somebody and persuading them through logic and reason, which is what I prefer to do, they will lie and manipulate people because they think that they're better by default, right? That's the difference. That's the measure of the ideology, right? So I personally think that logic and rationale is good, but when I advocate for it, I usually do it by linking sources, or by talking about specific examples, or by talking about specific policies if we're talking politics. I would never just make up lies in order to push an ideology, because I feel like that betrays my ideology. Whereas Athene says that lying is acceptable to push his ideology because he just knows it's better than everybody else's, because of a God complex. Destiny, what if you're ahead of your time? Oh, I mean, I think that my thought process is great. I love my thought process. And I think that if more people had my thought process, the world probably would be a better place. But I'm not naive enough to think that I could force every single person on the planet to buy into what I believe. And I also understand that your personal beliefs are going to be shaped by your environment, right? I have the beliefs that I do because of the experiences that I've experienced and the way that I've interpreted those experiences. And my interpretations come from my experience, right? You're pretty much a product of your environment to a large extent, right? I would never be arrogant enough to assume that I could go to fucking Sudan or some fucking shithole and whatever and get a bunch of kids to just buy into my ideology because I'm a fucking god. Like, that's insane. Or like I think it shows a poor understanding of how people develop thoughts and ideas. Do I think my thought process is superior to all others? Yeah, I think so, probably. I do. But I don't, I'll argue it, but the only way that I'll try to spread my thought process is by,
Here you go, fam. Let's work out some magic tricks to cheer you up. It's pretty dope.
Nice, man. We've already watched this. We watched this twice. I mean, I think that my thought process is, obviously I think it's superior to all others, because if there was a superior thought process, then I would take that one on, right? But I mean, I'm not going to try to force people into my thought process, and I'm sure as fuck not going to try and preach it, because my thought process is the best one that I've found so far. Maybe I'll change my mind in 5 years. I'm not going to fucking start a cult based on what I think right now as a 27-year-old. What if I would have did that as a 22-year-old or a 25-year-old? Like, I thought I was an idiot in both stages of my life there. Like, do you believe that there is a belief system that can derive the correct answer for every situation? Would your thought process be considered in this sort of system? Sure. I think that Athene is on the right track. I just don't like the way that he God complexes it, right? Like, I think that basing most of your decisions on some logical, rational system, something probably based in the empirical world, something probably based on leading scientific theory from educated academic people that have studied these specific fields, is probably a superior way to live your life rather than doing it via deity or some other, you know, hippie bullshit or whatever, or metaphysical whatever. By you displaying what you thought he meant just proved that you didn't really get what Athene meant after hours of discussion. I get what Athene meant, though. I understand what he meant. Okay, listen, I might sound arrogant, but I consider myself to be a pretty intelligent person, okay? More than average. I value my intelligence, and I spend a lot of time, and I have a lot of time to dedicate to reading and memeing and all this other random bullshit, because I sit at home fucking all day talking to people, okay? I don't have to work a 9 to 5, or I don't have any real struggles in my fucking life for the past 5 or 6 years, so I can dedicate a lot of time to this, okay? It shouldn't be that hard for me to understand something, is what I'm trying to say, right? For instance, is HBO Go a good system for watching movies on your computer? Probably not. I work with computers fucking all day. I know tons of shit about software and hardware. All the fucking time I'm spending on computers, and it's confusing for me to set that shit up. So it's probably not a good system, right? If it's hard for me to do it, if it's not super intuitive for me to do it instantly, I can't imagine how difficult it would be for the average person who is tech illiterate to do it, right? So when you talk about like belief systems based in like logic and rationale or whatever, like I feel like I'm a reasonably intelligent person. If it takes you hours and hours to try to explain a belief system to me and I totally just don't get it, is the fault really with me there? If you're more intelligent than average, why shouldn't you make decisions for them then? Because I don't have an objective way to measure my intelligence, and I wouldn't want somebody else subjecting me to their whims. I wouldn't want somebody coming to me, even if they were more intelligent, I don't think. I wouldn't want somebody coming to me and saying, Destiny, this is what you must do to live your life. Fuck that shit. I wouldn't want somebody telling me what the fuck to do. Destiny, you drink too much Red Bull or hot chocolate. Only water from now on. Fuck that shit. I wouldn't want that. So I'm not going to subject my will subject other people to my will, because I wouldn't want other people doing it to me, right? I think you hear what he's saying, but you're refusing to be objective and have an open mind, comprehend. Dude, I'm told my mind is so fucking open, dog. Are you being serious right now? Try clicking for a day and then judge. I'm not sure Athene is capable of explaining his theory in a way that is understandable. Fuck. Who said it? There was some super meme physicist that said, Richard Fein? Oh, fuck, who am I thinking of? Who said that if you cannot explain a concept simply, then you do not understand the concept. Who said it? Feynman? Was it him? Albert Einstein. I don't think it was Albert Einstein. That's what Google just spit out. No way. It was the other dude, wasn't it? Was it really Einstein? Yeah, it was the dude. The Feynman guy, right? You clearly won the debate. It's not a matter of winning or losing a debate. It's just, I feel like if I was tasked with explaining my belief system to somebody, I could do it very simply. I will do it, okay? This is my approach to the entire world, to every single belief that I have, okay? Okay? I believe fundamentally that people are worthy of protection and agency, okay? I think that people should be allowed to be safe and secure in their persons, okay? And they should be allowed to live their life in whatever manner they want, as long as it doesn't negatively impact somebody else, okay? And I believe that I don't want anybody doing anything to me, okay, I would never do anything to another person that I wouldn't want somebody doing to me, right? Those are the two central rules that I live my life by, okay? And every decision that I make, morally or ethically, more or less falls along those lines. I'm not a perfect person, okay? I fuck up from time to time. I'm definitely not a fucking perfect person. I'm not saying I am, okay? And there have been selfish, stupid things that I've done in the past, okay? But for the most part, this is where my morals and ethics come from, okay? It's very simple to explain. It's very simple to understand. You might not agree with it, okay, which is totally fine, but that's my core belief system, right? And every single derivative is an offshoot of that, right? That takes like a minute to explain. But that is not what emotionally drives you. What emotionally drives me, for me personally, I don't think there is a great purpose in life. I think that all we have is one life. Okay, and I think that every person should live to maximize their happiness, more or less, to be happy and to be satisfied in life. As long as you don't conflict with the other things of fucking with other people. All right, I don't think that's very difficult. You have to click. Do you believe in absolute truths like the ones you mentioned about agency and personhood? I don't know, dude. No, I wouldn't be able to if somebody didn't share in Western society, most of us share these fundamental beliefs in one way or another. So it's easy for me to explain my system of beliefs to another person. But to somebody that doesn't share those fundamental beliefs, I'm not sure if I would be equipped to argue it, that every person is worth keeping alive, or that the right to life should be expected. If you don't have those very, very core beliefs, I'm not sure how I would go about arguing with you. That conversation would become very, very, very basic very fast. Why did this conversation even happen? I don't know. Blame Mr. Moon. Where do you think Julian Assange is? Buried somewhere. Destiny. One of the worst things about Athene is that other people have done this thinking already, and he pretends to be smart without having engaged thinkers like Kant or the morality of lies. I hate people pretending to have wisdom on a subject without having to... Yeah, that really bothers me. Like, I have a lot of beliefs on philosophy, and I have a lot of beliefs on... I guess how people should be treated. Philosophy is the same thing. But I would never claim to have pioneered any sort of system, and I'm pretty confident that anything I've ever said in regards to philosophy or morality have probably been elaborated on in books worth of notes by people that are infinitely more informed on the topic than I am. I know that to be true. I'm very aware of that. Does anybody know if Athene actually cheated by trading hands? I thought I read about that on 2+2. That he was trading hands to break that record with someone else. I could be wrong. I don't remember. That's totally unsubstantiated. I don't know if that's true or not. That he was dumping chips for rake. Oh, maybe it was that. Also, wasn't Athene... Fuck, dude. I used to be more into poker, and I don't remember anything about... I never remember Athene having a very impressive poker history. I thought the only reason that wasn't he barely profitable, and that was only because of the PokeStars Rakeback program. They didn't call it Rakeback. It was like Supernova Elite back then. I don't know if they have Rakeback now or not, but yeah, I know he cheated in StarCraft 2. He got Kiwikaki to play his account. I know that for sure. I was on the same team as Kiwikaki when he did it. I don't know about the other games. Yeah, he cheated in League as well. He also probably did in Hearthstone. I know 100% he cheated in StarCraft. I know 100% he cheated in League. I feel like I read that he cheated in Hearthstone. The streams of him getting... I know for a fact the streams of him getting Legend were pre-recorded. I know that for a fact. In Diablo 3, didn't he fly in like some of the best players in the world? And then their Inferno first run got cucked because that infinite healing monk bullshit got patched, I think, and it killed their run. So many accusations, so little sources. Are you an Athene fanboy? Athene, StarCraft 2, Kiwikaki. I mean, do I count as a first-hand source? Or a secondary source? I know for a fact that Athene's account was boosted in StarCraft 2. I was on the team Root with Kiwikaki, and I talked to Kiwikaki, and I know that Kiwi boosted his account. I mean, I guess you could say that I'm lying, maybe, or that Kiwikaki was lying for me. Fuck, I don't know if I would have a source for this. Maybe I could message Kiwi and see if he... fuck, dude, I count as a source. Fuck you. Athene boosted. I know he did. I talked to Kiwi. I know what happened. This was pretty well understood at the time. Yeah, you can go and dig more into it if you want. Fucking, you should believe me, though. I mean, you can see, obviously there's a ton of connections. Athene wins as a Kiwi guy. This is well known at the time. I know that in League of Legends, I guess my sources for this is that I saw a lot of this. So I guess it's up to you whether or not you want to believe me. I mean, you can go do your own research. Athene, I know that I remember watching his stream doing this. When Athene played League, Athene would trio queue back when you could only duo queue, where what he would do is he would queue up with a friend, and then he would have a third or fourth friend trying to queue at the same time to get on his team, so they would have 3 people on the same team, or to get on the enemy team to throw the game. I remember watching the streams where he did that, and I think he was able to do that to grind up to Diamond 5. And then Hearthstone streams were pre-recorded. Hearthstone, Legend, Athene. But Athene did it for the greater good. Oh, Athene, trio, Q. Athene answering questions about the recent controversies. Oh, trio Q. Oh wait, this isn't an Athene thread. Oh, this was a link to an actual VOD with a breakdown of what happened. This VOD isn't here though. He's Q sniping, so he celebrates when his friends get on the same team as him. His team bans Rise, so he freaks out and asks his friend to dodge. His friends say they can still win, but he's still freaking out. He doesn't want his viewers to hear him flaming, so he tells his teammates, can you read Skype? Because he's raging so hard on Skype, telling them to dodge. At this point, his friend is begging him to play, saying it's an easy win. Since his friend still isn't dodging, he mutes his mic and shouts at them. This part really irritates me. His friendly finally dodges. Enemy team picks TF. He tells his friend on his team, just dodge this game. I don't want to play against Twisted Fate. His friend says we don't really need to dodge this game. Athene says it's actually good that we're queuing with 3 people. You know why? Because it's going to be the ultimate rage on the forums. Now we even have 4 people queuing. It's just too good. I want ultimate rage on the forums. I didn't even dodge. Blade Master dodged, so I don't even lose RP. LOL. This was 3 years ago? Yeah. Athene went from rank 4 to legend in a few days. Fuck. Where does anybody have the stream of the pre-recorded? Do you ever feel like you lose the argument by the other person being more confident and just bullshitting? Yeah, I let people gish gallop too much. I think I need to be more. I tried to get a hold of it, but I didn't at all. I think the gish galloping is really bad. I need to nip that shit in the ass. When people start talking, when I'm having a respectful conversation with somebody, I don't like to shout over them. But I think I need to start being really aggressive in some of those conversations. Other than he refuses to check his mouse, open friends list, or interact with things on the board because he's focusing really hard. Other than the digital clock doesn't match the in-game clock. We'll update with more bullshit as he forgets to cover up his stream. So this was when Athene was pre-recording his ladder run had been pre-recorded. I don't know. What are we looking for in this GIF that shows that it's pre-recorded? Rekful has some dirt on Athene. Call him. Bottom left. Wait, what happens on the bottom left? Hold on. Oh, it goes from... Friends list goes from 19 to 10. In-game time doesn't match VOD time. Oh, the friends list. Oh, okay. Are you going to call Athene and ask him about this? Oh, no, I just thought that it looked bad that, every single game that Athene's been involved in is surrounded with a ton of controversy. It just seems. I know he cheated in StarCraft 2. I know that he cheated in League. He at least did pre-recorded streams for Hearthstone. I doubt he ever legitimately got anything there. I've heard accusations of shit going on in WoW. I know that he did some weird chip dumping shit in poker. It seems like every single thing he's been involved in, there's always been some shady shit flying around, but... He already said he did all that stuff intentionally for controversy, I guess, but what kind of a man does that make you? A man. You know, after all of this, what would absolutely blow Destiny's mind is that the entire argument that Destiny just had was pre-recorded by Athene. His logic is so good that he knew exactly what Destiny would say in advance and was able to pre-record everything. How sick would it be? I'm halfway through the fucking argument, and then I get a Skype call. And I'm like, hold on 1 second, Athene. And he's like, sure thing. And I pick up Skype, and it's Athene. And Athene said, hey, how are you doing arguing with the recording? And I'd be like, what are you talking about? And then the Athene on TeamSpeak would go, listen to the guy on Skype. And the Athene on Skype would be like, it's a fucking recording, dog. And then he would open a stream, and he's outside, drinking coffee somewhere or whatever. Holy shit. I would click immediately, dude. I would click so fast. Is that true? Somebody said that was something that I wasn't aware of. If that's true. Is it true that most people only could make a living on the rakeback? That if it wasn't for the rakeback, most people wouldn't be profitable at the high stakes games back in the day? I don't know what it's like now at all. He played in small stakes, not high stakes. Oh, go play Factory. Yeah, you're right. Hold on, I'm gonna go logic myself a glass of ice water because I know that's the logical, healthy thing for me to drink instead of getting a Red Bull. I'll be right back. 1 second.